Okay, you're good. Sorry.
Okay, so we are going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please note it is 6:38. Sorry for the wait. We appreciate everybody waiting for us. Let's go ahead and do the flag salute. And I think we have some special guests to Dan Spiller, and Brian's going to introduce his.
You're right. It's my pleasure to introduce our fourth grade representative, Waylon Ballgren, and our third grade representative, Quinn Smith. And you want to tell what you want to, if you go up or give us something?
My favorite subject in school is reading.
And what about you?
My favorite subject is math.
There's your pledge. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Sammy, please note all 5 board members are present tonight, and then we are going to hand this over to Dr. Skip.
All right, it's my pleasure. We have an exciting announcement. So our next culture event is called Hugs and Mugs. And this is going to occur on December 13th. So what we wanted to do is involve our scholars to join in this awesome event that we're going to have. And so they entered an art contest. So a winter art contest to create the district artwork for our holiday mugs. So each school selected their top winners, sent us a bunch of entries, and they sent those over to district office, and then we had a committee, and then we judged the final winners. And so we selected an elementary, a middle school, a high school, a rural, and then a non-traditional winner. So Harry Lombach's going to announce the winners. And if the family is present, what we want you to do is rise together as a family. I'm going to bring over the amazing mug artwork that was created by your child. Dr. Hoff's going to take a picture real quick, okay? Then at the end of getting all the family pictures and the winners, we want the scholar that won the artwork to come at the very end and shake our board hands. So don't run off after you get your picture taken, all right? So we're going to ask the winners to kind of come to the front. So again, families, students, just thank you so much for creating the 2024 District Holiday Winter Mug Artwork. All right.
Our first winner is Sophia Campuzano. Sophia.
This one that was so cute is there's a mug on a mug. So it says the mug, it's like the mug house. And it's this whole little Christmas mug with like marshmallows and, snowmen and all the things, but there's a mug and little candy canes. And it was just so precious. So thank you so much. So we're gonna get a picture. You wanna hold it? All right.
It's not
Here
too
we
late
go.
to be a Christmas
go.
card too, so look good. All right, you're good.
All right.
And I want to go without that. You might want to set it out.
There it's not.
It could be.
Our second mug is from Carter Jocelyn. Carter is our middle school winner.
Super cool. I like the scale of it. It was a simplistic moose with little ornaments, but it just was so neat. I thought this would be perfect on a mug. And all that.
Carter,
All right.
1, 2, 3. That's a good picture.
Okay.
This is Carter. Next one is our high school winner. This is Hunter Colwell.
Oh, I just thought this was so cool because this night's just kind of hanging back. It's like warming by the fire, and then he put this little candy cane in the fire. It's just so precious. All right.
All right, you ready? Big piles. Well done. Good job.
And then we'll get the students.
And then this one was our rural non-traditional winner. This is Cora Childers, and she is from out in Galena, and she does watercolors, and so she took one of the watercolor things. Love that. This was on the mug. They can't be here today, but. Then we don't have it out here.
Oh,
Do you want me to go grab it really quick?
yeah, I want you to go do that, and then we'll have the students, y'all want to, everybody that won, our student winners that are here, you'll come over here with me. And so, come right here. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna come right here, and you're gonna shake all of our board members' hands, because they want to see the winners of this amazing art contest. Thank you so much. Oh, Sophie, I didn't get your hand. Nice job.
Congratulations.
Nice job.
Good job.
Congratulations. And then our last one was from Pioneer. Oh my gosh. Didn't have my book open to the name, but this one, I'll get the name really quick. But this one was also a dragon theme with a castle, which was really cool. Unfortunately, our artist for this one has moved from our district. Tiffany Montgomery. Okay, there we go. But, yeah.
Right. And if you you would like to stick around, you can, but if you have other things to work together, you are welcome to stay or to go. But thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. You're an amazing artist in this district. We had some really cool entries. They were so nice. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Have a great evening.
Take care.
Thank you so much. What's for this?
Great.
It's great.
And when I get. Wrong way.
Okay, monthly school recognition, we have Marcus. Marcus is out the hallway.
Rob, Mr. Hayes.
All right, so. Board, thank you for having the middle school here to do some recognition, and there's two groups that staff members that I wanted to recognize. Tina, Jim, Julia. Don't join, maybe, if you would like, maybe not, all right. They're there, those three, there you go. So the first group I wanted to recognize was Jim Crouch and Tina Katzenberger. They kind of took on a little project for the district, and it was really cool. Some parents reached out to them asking for some help for this is what the end product, but there was a project of putting something together for the seniors on senior night for the football team. And it started out as a little project, and if you know Jim and Tina, it kept growing and adapting. And so eventually, Jim put together the boxes. Then Tina, with her new laser engraver that we got this year, after many trials and errors, got the football player. And each kid has their name and their specific number engraved on the one side. And then borrowed the CC here from the high school, and Jim and had supervised some students with getting those put on the boxes as well. And so it's super cool project, and something that I love being a one high school, one middle school town, as we get to work together and create really cool projects for the community and for our students. And so when I was asked to do some recognition, this was something that popped up, and I don't know if you guys have seen them at the football games or some kids around town, but a super fun project that was put together. And I will also say that those individuals, I just was told today, I know there's been Ziploc baggies full of Christmas ornaments being ready to be shipped out, stacked in our office, but there were almost 800 ornaments made and sent to a bunch of the elementary schools for kids to decorate and to give to their parents for the holidays. So cool project that has, I think, gotten a lot bigger than Jim had initially thought would, but it's super fun. It's kind of the entry level project that kids do first couple weeks of wood shop, and so keeps the kids busy and working on some scroll saws. My next individual, Miss Newhouse here, she's here representing our CCMS science team, and they were recognized by the OSTA, Oregon Science Teacher Association, and was awarded with the 23-24 Next Generation Science Award Team Award from the state level. And so they were nominated by some staff members that had worked with them in the past. And so they were nominated and given this award. We had John Farrar, one of our science teachers, went over, and there was a big dinner reception and awards ceremony that he was able to go to get the plaque. And a quote from the recognition is: "The science department at Crook County Middle School epitomizes dedication to science, commitment to their students, and enthusiasm to bring high quality science learning to their school. And while each one of them could very well have chosen a career within the realm of science, they chose instead to bring the love of science to young people." So super fun that staff are getting recognized, and the work that they're doing, and the things that they're doing for kids. So that was another easy one when I was asked to do some recognition. So science team, Miss Newhouse, and Jim and Tina with our CTE group. So. Yeah. I have for you guys, any questions or?
Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, hello, everybody. Once again, I get to give my fall debrief. Here, what you're getting there is with all the details. I don't have time to go through every single one of those. A lot of accolades. So I'll kind of put that together in a Cliff Notes version, and I'll give you the summary, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. In the fall, we have 6 sports. We went 6 for 6, qualifying for the state tournament, so that's very good. 4 league team titles. The trophies are in the back there, kind of behind everybody. We'll leave them there. You can look at them, but 4 out of 6 won league titles, and the other 2 were second place, also qualifying. We had 45 all conference selections, 14 all state honors, 4 conference coaches of the year. That was Pard Smith, Ori Gomez Gonzalez, Brian Housley, and Michaela Lindbergh, and 1 state coach of the year, Michaela Lindbergh. 3 state trophies. Volleyball was 3rd, boys soccer was 4th, and boys cross country was 3rd. Academic all-state, pretty amazing, and that's the glass trophy back there I'll talk about in a second, but girls cross country was 1st in academic all-state top 10 for 4A with a 4.0 cumulative GPA. Nice. Girls soccer was also 1st in 4A with a 3.82. Volleyball was 4th with a 3.82. Boys soccer was 4th with a 3.51. Football was 6th with a 3.2. The only fall team that did not land in the top 10 was boys cross country. They placed 15th, but they placed 15th with a 3.53 GP. So it's not like they're out of the run, and they're very, very competitive as well. Back to girls cross country with a 4.0 cumulative GPA. That was the highest GPA in the state of Oregon for all sports. So that was why we got the little crystal trophy over there. So the academics and athletics, really second to none in a lot of ways. And I'm very, very proud. Again, there's all of the details there. I'd love to answer any questions that you might have. Yeah, quite amazing.
Those are all just from this year.
That's this year's
Just
fall. Yep. Fall. And we're missing one over there. I think Michaela Lindbergh kept her first state trophy for a little while, probably on her mantle taking pictures. I'll get that back from her. The only thing that's not on your list, because they came out this weekend and I've got them here, is all state honors for football. And we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 first, second, or honorable mention all state players. Yeah.
And we have a board member's daughter,
Yes, we do.
that's their first team. Lily Brumble.
Yes, we do.
Nothing to do with that.
Yeah. No, you
She
got a
even
lot to
drives
do with it.
herself, so I really had nothing to do with it.
Absolutely. All right.
Any other questions?
Any questions for it?
I'll be here all night, so if you have any questions, you just
We'll just call her
ask.
and check.
Yes, please, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, campus, oh, we already did campus recognition. No, we didn't. Campus recognition.
Yes, all right. So each month we have our little friendly competition going on. So the previous winner for the rules / non-traditional was Paulina. So I know Carrie has the trophy. Okay, it goes to GMH 95.2. So we'll all transfer.
Yeah.
Get a picture?
Picture to.
You guys have.
No, we didn't attend.
We got
that.
that.
Yeah.
All right.
We're not in person.
So for our traditional comprehensive winner last month, previous was Barnes Butte. Let's see if we have. Tough, I know. for somebody. Crooked River Elementary, 94.6%, and the elementary competition there is.
Robert, I gotta keep it. There was no one I'd rather take this from.
And this is why we do it for every month.
Yeah, every
Painful competition.
I will say the pukes are going around, so I think, I feel this slipping already. Yeah.
Who hit us first? It's now on you.
Yeah.
All right, congratulations. So for our growth category, previously was GMH, and this month for the growth. And we also did a combined, and I had Linda do a triple check because we have K-8 and then we have some high school. So it's kind of a K-12. So we wanted to make sure this was the right percentage. Still goes to GMH, 10.09% for growth.
One picture, Michael?
Just to make sure. All right, so we do this because we really do have an attendance push in the district. We want to make sure that all students are coming to school and that we're just being able to service and support their needs. So just doing a little friendly competition between schools. So thank you for allowing me to recognize our winners for the month.
Oh, fun. It's got a couple of them. There you go. Okay, all right. 1.5 agenda additions, deletions, revisions, and agenda approval.
But I don't know if we need to change, because 1.6 wouldn't be an action item at this time.
Correct.
Correct. I think that would be the only change I see.
Madam Chair, we move to adopt the revised agenda, moving item 1.6, which is a determination on an appeal, to after an exec or continued executive session that follows the open session.
Okay,
That's that one.
all right. We have a motion to adopt the revised revision, moving 1.6 to after our executive session, and we have a second. Do we have any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ms. Hammond, thank you. Do we have any others? Okay. Moving on to approval of the consent agenda. We have a motion.
I'm gonna move to the consent agenda. Second.
So we have a motion on the table to approve the consent agenda and a second. Do we have discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ms. Tammy? Thank you. Okay, moving on to 3.0 finance report. Ms. Anna.
We have Anna virtually. She's not feeling
Oh.
so well, so I said, please.
Thank you for not
agree
sharing.
to do this virtually, so.
Good evening. In the finance report, the first thing I would like to point out is in the consent agenda, under 2.4 is the enrollment report. And you may have noticed that each month since the beginning of school, enrollment has dropped just a tiny bit each month. And we're now 5% under budget for enrollment. As you know, enrollment is measured as ADM, and ADM drives revenue. So that could be concerning long-term. If you go back to the finance report on page 3 of the finance report, there is line 4 is where the state school fund revenue is, and that's what can be affected by ADM. But the state school fund has kind of a parachute kind of clause in it that makes it so that you never receive less ADM than what you received the prior year. So we basically, in this year, we shouldn't see too much of a decline in revenue because we will continue to get last year's ADM. But if that trend of enrollment continues to decrease, then we need to be worried about that for next year for revenue. So it's something we need to be watching. When we build the budget, those enrollment assumptions, the best information that we have at the time of building the budget is what we'll use to make revenue assumptions in the budget, which then impacts, of course, expenditures. The other thing I wanted to point out on the finance report is there's now 2 budget columns. At the beginning of the year, there was just an adopted budget column. There's now a revised budget column. The school board approved a supplemental budget at the last month's board meeting, and so that's why there are 2 versions of the budget. So you'll see line 10, total revenue is the same as it was before. Both columns are the same there. In the section for expenses, lines 11 through 18, those have increased by 630,000, which is the amount of the supplemental budget that was adopted. And then line 19, the adopted budget had no surplus, no deficit. Basically, it was a break-even budget. The adopted budget shows a deficit of 630,000. So I'll talk more about that in the next section under fund balances and reserves. Line 20, the budget for beginning fund balance was originally $2 million, but what really rolled forward was $2,630,000. So then line 21 is really just a repeat of line 19. And that shows that operating deficit. Now, deficit sounds bad, and it is bad if it's not planned and it's not under control. This is a planned use of rolled forward money. So this is not something that is a cause for concern when you're just looking at this. And then lines 22 and 23 together show that we planned in both budgets to roll forward $2 million to next year. Then if you move over 2 columns to the right, you'll see lines 23 and 24 together. Even with a deficit, a projected deficit, we are still projecting 2 million plus 44,000 to roll forward to next year. So that's a positive thing. So we're basically spending money that was one-time money and using it up in the form of a deficit, and then we're still projected to end the year with a little bit more money than what we absolutely have to roll forward to next year. Any questions on the finance report? I do want to mention one more thing that you'll see in the future. There was a new grant that ODE has informed us about for stipends for sped staff who qualify under the rules of that grant. And the grant is going to provide, we don't know how much yet, because it's a very complicated thing that all the school districts have to answer a survey before they tell us how much each stipend will be. But the grant will cover the stipend. It will not cover associated payroll costs, meaning Medicare tax, Social Security tax, PERS, etc. So the district will have to pay that piece of it. So that will be coming out of the general fund. Would you like me to move on to
3.2.
3.2?
Yes, thank you.
All right. 3.2 is regarding the annual audit report or the audited financial statements. So as always, we hired an outside firm for our annual audit. An audit provides an independent review of financial records and financial processes. Auditors can spot mistakes or weaknesses in financial systems and operations, and the audits confirm that the organization is following legal and regulatory requirements. Our audit found no issues, which is pretty rare, not only in school districts, but in most organizations. That's pretty rare. If the audit does find any minor issues, they would bring them to the attention of the superintendent and the CFO. If they found any major issues, they would also bring that to the attention of the school board. Auditors are highly regulated, and they have to follow a lot of rules that we have no control over. The result of an audit is a report that includes the audited financial statements and also letters from the auditor. I've posted that online from the main school district site. It's under departments and then business and finance. I did email a link of that to the school board and asked if anyone wanted a paper copy, and I did not receive any requests for a paper copy. So what I did for the sake of tonight's presentation is I just printed out a couple of pages, they're blue and yellow, out of the entire.
Magic will happen just for a minute.
She dropped off and I'll get her back. when she
Okay.
joins.
I know. We want to go ahead and jump to 3.3.
She told me their laptop shut down, so,
Oh.
it might be a couple minutes before
Well,
she's.
while we wait for her, can we jump back to the enrollment report for a minute? Okay. So it shows, as Anna noted, a 4% decline in overall enrollment. 3 schools account for the 171 reduction. Big chunk of online, somewhat in the high school, a little bit of student health. Could we get after meeting analysis as to what we think is happening with enrollment, especially in those 3 programs?
Mr. Cooper, we think alike.
I know, because I asked him to do the same thing. And I was, yeah.
Yep, so we pulled a list of every kid that has exited since September, as well as the exit code. A lot of kids, and then we followed up with each principal to say, do you know anything? We identified 4 students that we were able to, that we want to follow back out with. Either they kind of dropped off, or, you know, we're not sure that. All the other ones, we did confirm that these students simply have moved out of state, moved to Redmond, moved to Bend. And it's 5% off budget. So we're also looking at what the actual decline is not
Well, it's a 4% overall, actually.
on the actual decline. So
That's in the
5%
chart.
budget. So we are digging into those individual students and then also making phone calls to anyone that we're not sure if they kind of just disappeared.
But the online, which is 58 kids, if you know, out of 171, now they didn't move to Redmond then. They may have
No.
moved to
Yeah.
a brick and mortar school.
Another piece of this that
We're down to 15 total?
another piece that I'm kind of digging in as I saw these numbers earlier this week is we did create in Synergy, we created Crook County High School online. So those students, Grizzly Mountain Homelink High School. So those students used to be coded to Crook County online option. They're now, so I don't know the direct answer, but there's some variables in there that I'm not certain of what exactly is going on that we'll dig into and can follow up with.
We don't, I don't ask you tonight. 'Cause this is
No,
the
but as
first
soon as we saw those numbers, I was actually at COSA and I was, calling, Joel and saying, hey, let's dig into this a little bit. 'Cause that's getting to be a pretty hefty number. So,
Yeah.
started reaching out to the principals and saying, hey, what about this kid, this kid, this kid? So just so we can drill down and figure out the root cause and what we can do to recapture.
Hi, Anna. Welcome back.
We found her, yay.
So sorry.
You're right. We
And
have our blue and gold sheets.
are we up to, are you gonna explain gold, blue, gold, or can we ask questions about the audit at this point?
Either way.
I have one question about the audit. At the end, there are some recommendations. One is that we hire you some more staff, and the other one is that they acknowledge there's no staff to be hired anywhere. So we ought to invest in something. Are those specific to us, or were those something they're putting in every one of their audit reports?
That is something they are saying to most of their clients. There's a concern because there's an accountant shortage, and you not only need to be able to have enough people, you also need to be able to have kind of a succession plan, as well as just people in the pipeline, cross-training, et cetera. A few years ago, we actually added a half-time FTE to accounting, and that has helped a ton, and I don't really feel like we need more. So I think we're okay.
Thank you.
All right, so the entire audit report looks like this, and it's fairly thick. So I just printed out a few pages, and there's a yellow section and a blue section. I want to start with the blue section. That's pages 10 and 11 out of the report. Those pages match our internal financial system. School districts have to follow a different accounting system than what corporations or not-for-profits have to follow. There's some just unusual things that we have to do. For example, the beginning cash in the bank is considered revenue. We don't have we hardly have any assets on these blue pages, hardly have any liabilities. For example, we have PERS bonds, which should be under the liability section, and we have general obligation bonds, which should be under the liability section. But school districts don't report those things on their regular financial statements. They just report everything as a revenue or an expense, except for a few things like cash, etc. So then what we have to do is we have to build our financial reports based off of, what our real financial system has in it. But then we also have to keep capital asset schedules, depreciation schedules, loan amortization schedules, etc., and then convert that to what you see on the yellow, pages 8 and page 9. So basically, the yellow pages are what would it look like theoretically if we were to convert to a different kind of an organization, like a corporation or not-for-profit, etc. The weird thing about this is we have to record, governments have to record on these yellow pages, we have to record all these future liabilities for pension clear out into 20 some years out into the future. We don't get to record the offsetting revenue, like all the future state school fund revenue that will help us pay for that, all the future property taxes revenue that will help us pay for that. And so what you see at the very bottom is a fairly large negative, almost $2.3 million. And so that's something that sometimes people get concerned about, because nobody likes to see a big negative number. But that's actually, if you want to see what's really going on in the school district, you look at the blue pages, and that's what, like I said, matches. That's what I sometimes just kind of jokingly call, the blue ones are our real financial statements. So every year, policy requires the board to accept the audited financial report. And then what happens after that is I distribute it. I send it to ODE so that we can make sure and continue to get our state school fund money. I send it out to the bondholder intermediaries and just a bunch of places that we're required to send those audited financial statements out. So you have a cover sheet with a proposed motion that's the same motion that we provide to you every year. But I would take questions first if you have any further questions.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the audited financial report for fiscal year 23-24.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to approve the audited financial report for the fiscal year of 23-24. We have a second. Do we have discussion? No? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ms. Tammy? Thank you, Anna.
Good job, Anna.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, very nice job.
Absolutely.
That's for Anna.
3.3 nutrition services reports. Anna and Leland and Ben. Okay, so we have information for you, quite a bit of information for you regarding the Nutrition Services Fund, and I have mentioned, not formally yet, but this is the first time I'm probably formally mentioning that the Nutrition Services Fund ended the year last year with a negative balance of a little over $100,000. And that can happen sometimes, but it hasn't happened in over a decade. And so when that fund is in the negative, the school district has to take other non-federal funds and move that into the Nutrition Services Fund to make up that deficit. So we moved $100,000 in last year's financials into the Nutrition Services Fund. Because we don't like this to happen, we look at it all through the year and we monitor, and I do projections, and for 12 years my projections have been adequate, but like I said, this year we ended up with $100,000 in the negative. In your packet on the second page, just after the cover sheet, there's just kind of an analysis showing that on June 18th, I projected that we would have a positive ending fund balance. And I thought at that time that was
like safe, where I thought I was a little bit overstating the expenses and a little bit understating the revenue. So I thought we'd end up better than that. But then a lot of things happen that are year-end entries, one of which is inventory, which is counted on June 30th. And when you count inventory, it can have if it goes up or down, it has an opposite effect on the expenses in that fund, in any fund. And then the second thing is there's a commodities concept where the federal government gives us actual food, and it's called commodities, and we have to record that entry at the end of the year, which that valuation that they give us isn't even available till at least mid-July. And then also, usually we have more summer meals revenue, but this year something happened with summer meals where we just didn't hardly have any participation. So and then there were several other smaller things that happened. So then Leland is going to talk a little bit more about what we're going to do.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the future improvements that we're going to make. So one of the things that we've already started this year is we changed from the free and reduced system to the community eligibility provision system, or CEP. And that's increased our participation already. So we're starting to see some of the revenue from that increase. And then we've started to implement some of the other changes. So when we're getting really specific about what some of the things that we're doing in the kitchens, that's where Denny, who's our nutrition services manager, that's where he really knows all the details of that. So I'm going to let him talk about some of those specific things.
So one of the things we're going to do is we've taken a reduction. We replaced some items with lower costing items year over year. Tried to do that at the end of last year, but I couldn't procure it. So I had to wait till this year to get the products to make it happen this year. We are going to do some simplifying of the menu. It's going to allow us to be a little more flexible with our labor. So if we have a sick call at one school, we might be able to split somebody from two schools and help save on labor instead of bringing in a sub each time somebody's gone to get through the shift. Participation is going to be the number one thing. Generating revenue, top line sales are going to help the bottom line problems. Right now we're up $106,000 in the first 2 months. So if that tracks through, somewhere around the 400,000 by the end of the year, which would put us over 2 million, and that's kind of where we need to be. We are reducing the courier position. So I'm having US Foods, which is our vendor. I'm going to have them deliver to all the schools instead of a courier within the district doing it. So we should be able to eliminate at least half of that position, but I'm going to evaluate that a little bit further into the new year and see how that plays out. And we're gonna scale back the salad bar, especially in the winter time when produce is the highest. So eliminating a couple higher end SKUs during the winter time and just having a more core salad bar, which will help with obviously the savings there. And then we are gonna pilot a few different things in the schools and see how it works, like maybe portioning the condiments instead of letting them squeeze out of squeeze bottles, see what that does for us. And then we are seeing a reduction in some of the supply costs, particularly the boats have come down since COVID. So that's gonna help. And then we are not doing supper this year. We switched to the snack program. So if you look over here, we do have a supper revenue that was less than projected, and that's because I couldn't staff the position. So I can't staff the position, I can't get the sales. With snack, I was able to train the after school programs to actually serve it. So it's labor free to us. And we just give them the snack and then it's just straight food cost, and then revenue after that. So that's what I have so far. Do you have any questions?
We thought of shopping like maybe performance foods or some different food vendors, or are you stuck?
We're in a co-op with US Foods with 38 other districts. So we're with Redmond and a ton of other schools in the district. So we get a better buying price because of that. But we could look at that, but I don't think we're gonna find cheaper than US Foods. They're pretty much the game.
Food costs are super expensive, and just from a personal note, we used US Foods and we switched to a different vendor and saved thousands and thousands.
What are you using?
Performance.
Performance. Okay,
But
I'll look
there's
into
a
it.
couple, it's kind of like insurance, they do really well for you for a while.
Right.
And then everything. Potatoes, $50 a box compared to $30 a box. Eggs, $80 a box. Found somebody else that had it for 50, which is ridiculous for eggs. But anyway, it might pay to shop around with different vendors.
We can
I don't-
definitely look at it
Yeah.
for sure. And they also have to be able to provide school lunch foods, so it has to meet that meal pattern, but I'll definitely look into it. That's a good suggestion for sure.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea. And what about, I don't know what you pay for boats. Do they not do the school trays anymore?
We do. Well, if you give them out at the high school, they're not coming back, so they get boats there. And the middle school, we do serve on boats there as well. We just have a lot of kids going through so fast that it just makes it, and the labor we're evaluating also the washing of the trays versus the cost of the boats. Before COVID, we were all boats. Then during COVID, you couldn't get boats, so we bought trays. Boats were getting up close to like 18 cents, I believe, back then. Well, now they're back down to 9 cents. So maybe evaluating if we need to do that and maybe reduce some labor in that capacity as well. But I would feel bad about putting 10,000 boats a week in the landfill.
I mean, I have to say on a personal note, this is very difficult because the cost of food and the cost of labor.
Yes, if as a restaurant, I just raise my prices.
It's hard for me to see how this can happen, so.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I also thought that I'm like confused by payments from families less than projected aren't our foods free?
They're free this year. They weren't free last year. So we were still charging middle school and high school.
Oh,
So if we have balances, that's just that difference. It's just they get paid.
Can you explain the inventory adjustment a little bit? I mean, is that the amount that you were off of what you thought you were at?
No.
Or is that just?
No, it's just a reduction. So my goal at the end of the year would be, here's the last bit of food out of my inventory and we close for the school year and start over fresh. When I took over, there was a huge amount of product in the warehouses and we've slowly drove that down. So I think we were at something like $600,000 when I started and now we've shrunk it to 100,000. So we had some big revenue years when we were, using those to save money and now the coffers are empty. Although the good news is I am getting some bonus foods from the USDA. So I'm getting 120 extra cases of canned goods and I think 50 of dried goods. So that'll help offset some of the produce costs at the end.
We want to give things a few months and come back and do another report to the board. So right now, we can only kind of look at September and October, so we don't know exactly where we're at. And we're looking at actual costs on the food costs, our actual labor costs, and then we're looking at our claims. So that we're comparing that month by month to kind of see how we're doing and we're tracking that. We do have some future issues, so we are still in bargaining with classified employees. It's we're probably gonna see an increase in our cost per hour for those employees. So we may need to cut some hours here and there. One of the things we want to finalize bargaining before we know that. I already talked about, we want to get a few months of claims in so that we kind of really know where we're going. So I was kind of thinking maybe we'd come back like the first part of March maybe and try and do another report for you then. Labor, one of the things last year that happened is our labor should have been way under budget because he had so many unfilled positions. We couldn't keep full staff. He couldn't keep a full staff. And then we had a lot of people that were out on FEMLA or PLO. And we were still over budget. So that's really kind of scary for the upcoming year as to how that's going to play out. But we're tracking it month by month, so.
Food costs and labor.
Yes, yes.
I think there's one other element that you may be encountering this spring, and that's there's a scheduled cut in SNAP benefits. And anytime SNAP benefits go down, demand on school lunch goes up to make up for it. So March, you may not have begun to see that, but I expect by May, you're gonna be full on into it.
Yeah, that's the key, driving sales. I mean, that's gonna take care of 90% of it.
Is there a way that, oh, go ahead, Anna.
I was gonna summarize, so if you have another question, that's appropriate for you to ask now.
I'm just curious, like on a high school level, like we have a cooking class, home ec type avenue. Is there a way that they could be of help in the school kitchen in the sense of?
Depend on their age to use our equipment. And we do have a student worker from Pioneer right now that gives us 2 hours a day, which is beneficial. And again, if we have a sick call, I'll be
Somebody
able to,
wants to go in that trade and just thought that might be a way to.
yeah, yes, we're definitely working with Pioneer right now. And we do have somebody, I believe we have 150 hours. We're working them 2 hours a day. We'll have 75 days and then we'll look at a second. But again, that person filling in at the high school would allow me to pull somebody out if I have a sick call and not call somebody in. So streamlining the menu at the other schools, that'll be key to cutting labor, but he's right. I mean, I was working a position every day last year and we still didn't make labor or barely made it. So that is worrisome.
What's the age, Denny?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What's the age?
Hey, you gotta be 18.
Okay.
Don't quit it.
Getting internships are best practice in CTE. Right now, they're pushing hard.
We're trying to
Yeah, we,
incorporate.
there's certain things they could do under 18. I mean, I could have them. There's a couple positions I could, yes, they could do some of those things, or be at the point of sale. They could do some of those things, yes.
Yeah.
Right? Always use that.
Part of being in the kitchen.
Start at the, yes, that's where you start out.
I just know the high school also has the option to have like a peer tutor at the middle school, elementary level. I don't know if that's something you could coordinate through CTE with somebody that wants to.
Say it again, a peer tutor?
Yeah, so they have kids at the high school have the option to be a peer tutor, like at the elementary level or even the middle school level. And I
Okay.
don't know if that might be something you might be able to coordinate with CTE where, hey, we have these kids that would like to do the food handler certificate, they need their hours, what have you, but it might be something where they could,
Okay.
you know, have periods. I don't know if schedules line up, but at the high school, like if they had period 3, that may not line up with, you know, lunch here, but if they have period 2, you know,
Okay.
that might be.
Yeah,
something
definitely look into
you
that.
guys could trade off in hours where that would also go towards certificates and CTE, so. I don't know how schedules line up in that.
Yeah, that's not my realm
Right.
either. I couldn't tell you anything about that. We like free labor for sure.
I was also thinking a trade for a certificate, but you know, yeah. That works.
So just to summarize the numbers, we were 104,000 in the deficit position last year. So far, we believe we're 106,000 up in revenue, 30,000 in food savings, 30,000 potentially in labor from a position change. But then there's an offset that's unknown for labor increase. So we just don't know if we're going to be positive at the end of the year. So we'll just keep watching it. And normally we don't give the board reports specifically for nutrition services, but because this happened, we'll keep updating you on it through this year and make sure that you're aware of what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you. 3.4 literacy materials expenditure, Anna and Dr. Skinner.
Anna started off with the logistics and then we're gonna go into the.
The superintendent has identified a need to purchase elementary literacy materials for about $250,000. Last month, a supplemental budget was approved by the board, which included this purchase. And since then, we've done a sealed bid process. And then the additional step that needs to occur, because this is over $150,000 by policy, it requires an additional approval from the board specifically for this purchase.
Okay, and so obviously, we had talked about this at our last board meeting. So the objective is really to improve student reading proficiencies and comprehension by leveraging instructional resources and strategies. So I have Taylor, and I know she brought some amazing teachers with her because we've been doing a little bit of a pilot over at Barnes View.
Some of our teachers who plan to come are got through it, so they also spend. So they just give you all of them to kind of check out
So
while
we
we
have
talk.
2 different things. So what they're most likely, I believe, passing out right now is the comprehension toolkit. And this is going to help us with our comprehension strategy. So we talked about metacognition. And so there's really just a few books really in this particular. You want to wait and do that one? You want to do at the different times, just not to confuse. So
Yeah.
right now, there's just a handful of books that actually come with the comprehension toolkit because the teachers teach metacognition strategies. So they just use this as a launching. There's just a few. There's like 1 book per comprehension strategies. So summarizing, making connections, visualization, those types of strategies. So then the teacher just has one book to teach that. And then they can use anything from their classroom connection or with wisdom, anything else that they might have in the classroom to teach those comprehension strategies. So we wanted to start with that so we're not confusing, and then we'll move into the small groups. I'm gonna turn it over to Taylor.
So what you have is you also have a K-2 right in front of you. And this is Ashley Hawkins, and she's a 3rd grade teacher. And why Ashley partnered with me to come tonight is that she's actually taught both of these in her classroom. And so she's having both of these, and we're kind of at Barnesview doing a little pilot. We have some of the materials. We bought some with our building funds earlier in the year because I wanted to test them out to see how it would go. And we've seen a lot of growth and just fun with the comprehension toolkit. So that's been really, really nice, is that kids are excited to learn. And Dr. Skinner was in a classroom today, and the student said, well, what if I want to give more than one example on my diagram?
Fill out.
He was like, well, what if I don't want to not only do pictures, but what if I want to also do a chart? And the teacher was like, you can do that. And so it was a really fun time. We saw 2 really wonderful lessons today at our school. And that was just like random. I picked 2 teachers on the day, and I have more books back there, but there's only so much I could hold. So it's been really great. Our numbers have been really low in comprehension. And so we're hovering at less than 40% of proficiency in reading. And so what I did was I did a data dive that not only included iReady, but also the state scores and then DIBELS as well. And what I found is in specific strands is that comprehension, we are very strong in teaching phonics. We saw a wonderful lesson by a 1st grade teacher, Miss Yuma, today, and she did a great job. And we love phonics. We don't want to get rid of phonics, but we do need to supplement phonics with actual comprehension. So even though students can do the phoneme segmenting and they can read, are they actually reading to understand? And that's the piece that we are truly missing to raise our scores from 40% to higher. And so Ashley can kind of talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so I will get students that come in and their DIBELS scores we're at grade level, we're above grade level, but they have exceeded in phonics. So they've exceeded in nonsense words, they've exceeded in CVC words, but their accuracy and their fluency is still really low, and their understanding of the text is not there. So when you go to ask questions, when they go to write about text, they still cannot do it. They can't tell you what they've read. However, they can decode. So when they get to the 3rd grade level, it's really important that they have that comprehension skill, especially when we have our high stakes testing as their 1st year.
Yeah, and so Ashley's been great to just partner with me and toss ideas and talk about the data. And we're really transparent at Barnesview, and we've been doing a lot. We have data dives, but then we're also like talking about the data and really using the iReady. iReady has been really a big blessing this year, because then we're also chunking it to see, like, in classrooms, okay, like if a teacher's classroom specifically is all fluent and they don't need any more parts of phonics, or specifically like Haggerty, which is a different part of the phoneme segmenting, like, okay, then the data is showing us that why are we doing this with all 22 kids? Maybe there's a different 2nd grade teacher who has a pocket of kids, 8 kids, that still don't understand it. Okay, how can we target that small group? So really individualizing our instructions to what the specific students need and where the gaps are. And these supplemental materials have been really beneficial. And to be honest, we haven't had very much time. I mean, it's only December, so, and I ordered these couple toolkits in the beginning of September. We rolled them out in October. And so really November's a short month, but we have seen that kids are very interested in them. And the charts, just the teacher today who had a chart of the wall, and the kids who had already the language that had been taught from the chart, and they were transposing it into the next lesson, and they were ready to go, and they were using things like National Geographic. And what I love about this that you'll see in front of you is some of it is nonfiction, but some of it is fiction. And a lot of times, a lot of nonfiction our kids don't get to see anymore. And I think that's so important. And so I just appreciate in both of these, there's a huge nonfiction aspect. And I know that's like my son, and especially for boys, I have 2 boys. That's how you get them to like learning, right? Is really bringing it to like something that they're interested in, and books aren't all the time interesting. So
these are the comprehension toolkit, and the teacher uses this to launch the lesson. So the kids aren't necessarily reading this book, the teacher's reading that one. And the next set of books is really what we're also asking for our small groups, so that our children, our students, our scholars.
I didn't want to overwhelm you with the stuff.
Our students would be reading these books. So trying to increase our reading levels, our reading proficiency, and then really addressing those gaps that our students have. kind of the combined focus of decoding and comprehension, so we can build and really bridge that skill deficit for students who are below grade level. So our teachers are able to pull many titles. So every grade level will have, the teacher will have 200 titles, 6 copies each. They can pull 4 to 6 kids over to the table, teach them where they are at. You can see at the little lesson folder, it shows the goals, like if they're low in this, if they're low in that, this book would be really good to teach blank, blank, and blank. So they pull the students over, giving them something that they can actually read and being able to accelerate their learning. So we're really trying to fill in the gaps with these books. So again, walked into a teacher's classroom, she was wrapping up a lesson, took a picture of it. I was so impressed. Kids were over there reading, not just echoing sounds, but actually reading in books. So I'll let you talk, if you want to talk a little bit more about the small group books.
What's wonderful about this is, number one, the organization. I'm an organization person, right? It's really easy. If a kid tests on iReady and they're at this level, I know that they should be at this group, and that's the folder that I pull. So these folders that you're seeing, and I'll use it for example, are sitting on, and you can organize it in 100 different ways, but if the teacher wants to go, she can grab it, she can. It says the letter right here, which is N. So that's the specific, which we know that data from iReady. So kids are grouped based upon what they need. It's a huge strength that we already know. And then what's the goal? Like, what do we want kids to be able to do? Do we want to connect words to synonyms, expand understanding? Do we want to do word work? Do we want to do writing about reading? So what's the goal for the specific kid? And so what's nice about lessons is that then all of these kids have a book, like you'll say, Steve, if you hold yours up, has many different copies. And so then that would go out to the whole group.
6 copies of every title.
Yes, and then they're reading through and they're getting to process. So we do, you do, or together, it's like a release. So the teacher is leading, and then she might work with a different group, and then maybe they're taking and they're doing a different task. And what I also love about this, and I think is important, is it also has that phonics piece. And so it also can pull in depending on the book. And so this one specifically doesn't have a phonics piece, but a different one would. And so it's just dependent on, and the mix of, this is Stinky Sneakers, but you've got a nonfiction about pigs. So very interesting, full color. I love that. It's full color. It's engaging. It's funny,
They're actually real books.
Yeah.
They're real,
They're not
Real-
black and white.
They're, yeah,
wonderful.
they're not copies. And so I think that's really what brings them in, is like, you're definitely gonna want to read about pigs who are swimming and stinky sneakers. Yeah. Now we can go on a field trip next. Yeah, what's a fun fact? And so, like this one's about multisyllable words, refrigerator, contestant, repulsive. And so you're bringing that language and vocabulary already there. And then so kids start thinking about, oh, what's another multisyllable word that I have at home? Bedroom, or, just thinking about different things. And then you're creating lists and you're having natural conversations with kids that are derived from the text. And you kind of let the kids guide their learning at what interests to them. And so that's what I love about these is every kid has a connection base. Your connection base is different than my connection base, right? But we let the kids brains just decide where they're gonna go. You give them the content, and then that's the engagement strategy that really is gonna link the learning for them. Like, I don't have a pig at home, and I think that's cool that you do, but I don't have that, right? So, but here you're gonna be forever connected. You're gonna remember that book because you're like, oh, remember when that pig did that crazy thing? And then I might remember it because you're sharing about the crazy story that your pig did. So I think it's just a good way to talk about it. I could probably talk about Stinky Sneakers though. Better connection for me, so.
They both stink.
Yeah, they both stink. So there you go. And Ashley has been a good advocate for me, and just like talking through how we could use this in our classrooms. I think sometimes you have to have somebody who is on board with you about actually getting books in kids' hands. And Ashley and I have been talking about for years. Ashley's been here for 3 years. And she came from the Valley and was an ELD teacher there before. So really big on language acquisition and words and language. I was like, what are the barriers that our kids are facing? And the number one thing is books in hand. And so I'll let her talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that this is so important that kids have books in hand every single day. When we don't have 100% of our kids reading every day, then we're doing a disservice to them and to their ability to learn. So when we see our scores below 40%, really, we don't have books in hands. And with the Wit and Wisdom program, we don't even have a whole class set of those. So they're sharing those books. So I think that this is super important because this way it gets every kid a book in their hand every single day at their level. And then it helps build that comprehension.
And fun to use the data. That's really black and white and use it to connect to the instruction and use that to see outcomes. And we're just at the tip of the iceberg, right? But we're just excited to go further and get into it and feel really fortunate to have books in hands at some of our grade levels. So we wanted to share that with you tonight.
And Dr. Skinner, I just want to clarify, these are for A through 3 or 3 through 5? 3 through 5, that's what I thought. Every teacher will get a comprehension toolkit. And then we, yeah, we use a small group books.
So Taylor said her school is seeing comprehension under the 40. Where are we with the district one? How's that 40 compared? I mean, that's a building.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that was an OSAS number, which is probably right, pretty consistent with the district around OSAS, and that would be from last spring.
And their third grade numbers were even lower. We dropped to over almost 13%, or 0.5% in third grade alone.
Why we're here.
Yeah.
And then our iReady
That's why I
as
have a
well.
wonderful third grade teacher, because I mean, we know third grade is such a crucial year in that first year to test, and our kids are coming with some okay phonics skills, but it switches over and we have to be able to put more books in kids' hands for sure.
And we implemented a new system. We piloted at the middle school last year. Now it's down to K, so it's a K-8 system that instead of DIBELS, DIBELS comprehension assessment was really not comparable to the OSAS comprehension assessment. So we implemented iReady, and from what I heard from all our elementary school, it's going really well. And it's better matching the rigor of the OSAS, and then also giving us this triangulation of the data to say, like, yes, it is clear that comprehension is a gap across all our elementaries. And then as Dr. Skinner looks into what's causing that, we're seeing an over focus potentially on phonics and not as much focus on comprehension that we need. So it's been good.
Interject to that, a lot of it is informational comprehension, and what so much of this is nonfiction. And so, I mean, it's just a resource that we are so excited to potentially get.
Yeah, nonfiction is huge. And then not to subvert you, but iReady is just a fantastic resource. Like my goal is around attendance as well, and the iReady data and scores that you see at the middle school. That has been such great in conversations with families about attendance too, right? Because it's very easy to understand. And so I cannot tell you the amount of times I look at students' data in a week. Always. I looked at it today. I did a home visit today. I showed parents data today. That says, this is why your kid needs to come to school. Like, this is their data. And even if they are at school, their achievable score is still lower than they should be in kindergarten. So I need your child to be at school. I'm begging you to bring your
It
child.
breaks it down standard by standard. So we can say, like, today we saw a great text feature lesson from the comprehension toolkit. It was talking about what is the purpose of a text feature. So like, authors put in text features, and sometimes we just skip over those because kids are so busy decoding the words, but a caption, a photograph, a label, all those things are very important in informational text. That was the actual lesson from the toolkit today. So on iReady, we can look and say, how many kids are not being, proficient, being very successful in text features? Ooh, let me pull that lesson out. Instead of text features, maybe it's text structures, but it's just, we know the standard within comprehension because there's so many things that you need to do. Main idea, summary, determining important. There's so many things in comprehension. So what is it? What's the one thing, 2 things, 5 things, 10 things? And then we break that down and figure out the resource to use.
So-
We go back to ordinary people land for a minute. So Kimberly referenced informational comprehension. What's the difference between informational comprehension and any other kind of comprehension?
Fiction, nonfiction.
Informational text. So
I mean,
your
I only comprehend information.
Yeah.
So help.
So the text feature lesson that I was just talking about would be taught under informational. So I'm going to use my articles. I'm going to use nonfiction. So those types of things.
What's the opposite?
Yeah.
Mystical
It's literary.
comprehension?
It's literary. So your poems, your dramas, your stories. So the little sneaker.
Little
book. The
sneakers, yeah.
Sneaker one would be literary comprehension.
Imaginary,
And so
imaginary.
you might have a drama, a play to read, a poem. That's visualization. Those are all under the literary
The
standards.
state separates
Yeah.
reading into literary text or informational text. So informational text would be on questions related to like supporting key evidence based on an article.
Characters and how they.
Whereas literary is like, what are the characters'
Yeah.
motivations? So it's, comprehension is comprehending, but that's just how the state separates
So
it.
we do a little bit better at setting characters, plot, those types of things with our sneaky book, our little sneaky, than we do when we get into the text features and the text structures and things like that you would see in articles.
I think, Mr. Cooper, I think Kimberly, Brian, and I can say that we've spent a good majority of this year diving into the data more and understanding, like, why aren't kids reading? Like, you can give yourself a number of 40%, really diving into the strand and then meeting with our leadership here at district office and saying specifically at Barnes Butte, this is what the data is showing me from multiple data sources. So these are the changes we need to make with our teachers collaboratively and supportively with them. We have wonderful teachers, and if I could do anything tonight, it would be to brag about my team. Like, I have wonderful teachers. I have a wonderful team. Barnes Butte, I think, is the most wonderful place to learn, Kimberly. So. Yeah, exactly. Put it down. No, and just like the amount of people who come out and support and just say like, but we have to get down because to the molecular level, because if 40% and that's not good enough for us, we know that we're doing an awesome job. But how could we improve and get better? And it comes down to the resources that we have to put in front of kids. And if our resources don't do better at targeting, even if we're looking at the data, even if we're saying this is a strand and this is a problem, tell you what the problem is. I have to have the ability to fix it. And so I think we're taking steps to make great changes. My staff has done an awesome job about putting big chunks of learning time in the block and really making the learning day as effective as possible and having the least amount of transitions as possible, which was a huge lift before Thanksgiving, and they did a fantastic job. And everyone is just doing so wonderful, but the resources and then just rolling them out in a supportive way. Like, we don't want to just put them on their plates and then say, see you later, but really supporting them through it and then saying like, you're doing a great job at what you're doing currently, and we want to help you too. So I think it's a partnership, and I just wanted to brag on my teachers for a minute.
Kimberly, I want to thank you.
It's okay, call me Kimberly.
It's like that the trophy.
Yeah.
I wanted to thank you for being willing to take this on, so I think you're the first school that really took this and implemented it right away. And, you know, give a higher level, if it's my understanding, I could be.
I'm just desperate for kids to learn, thank you, but it's not really anything to me, as I have a 5-year-old myself, and this is his first year of kindergarten. And I'm just like, what would I want for my own kid? And I think that is just puts it so much value on my plate because I see it. Like, my son is just learning to read, and it's so foundational and so important. I don't wanna cry, but it's just so important. And so it's like, I wanna do the best job possible as a principal, as a teacher, as part of our community, because I want all that for the kids. And that's also why I'm knocking down doors and making kids come to school. It's because I'm like, let's go.
I've heard really wonderful things, and thank you for just taking this on and doing it, because you're very good administrator.
Oh, thank you. I'm motivated by my own kids. So, and thank you to my teachers. So, yeah. Well, thank you for your time. And if you want to check out more, you're always welcome to stop by Barnes Butte anytime. Welcome to come to any classrooms at any time. It's just a blessing to have so much community support. So.
We need a motion.
Yes, we do.
I motion to approve the purchase of supplemental literacy material for up to $250,000.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to approve the purchase of the supplementary literacy materials for up to 250,000. We have a second. Do we have any more discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ms. Kim? Thank you. Okay, 4.0 superintendent update, 4.1. So we have bond timeline. Oh, thanks, Anna. Yeah, I was gonna say, Anna was gonna maybe hang out as she's not feeling well. So in your packet, oh, there she is. So last board meeting, we were asked to bring back a bond timeline again, but this time what we did is listen to exactly kind of what we thought we were hearing. And one of those things was we wanted to get on the bond timeline, really kind of looking at how do we do that, a political consultant, potentially getting the board to look at any of those RFPs for the political consultant, getting the board involved in the selection of that. So you will see your packet, we have the bond timeline there where you can see December, January, and maybe a little bit into February. So the big piece of this is really that December time where you had asked for the political consultant. So the board would then develop that scoring criteria, the staff, we would publish the RFP, and then in January, looking at interviewing and then selecting the political consultant. And then really that would be then their job then to discuss for future timelines with the board, whether that's polling, whether that's whether that's May, whether that's November, the best timing, all of those pieces would then come from that political consultant. So that's what we are bringing to you tonight, to kind of talk about the bond measure, whether that is again, May, November,
publishing to look for a political consultant. What the board would like to do moving forward.
I move to create a board committee for the purpose of selecting a bond measure political consultant.
Second.
Hold on, okay, we have a motion on the table to create a board committee for the purpose of selecting a bond measure political consultant, and we have a second. It's open for discussion. We have discussion.
I think I captured it. I
Yeah.
think that's what I heard last time.
Yeah.
Okay, just get the ball rolling and then you
Start this.
and then from there, you can take over and
Yep.
hire the political consultant, will score it and what are you gonna do with it?
Okay, any further discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ms. Tammy? Thank you. Okay, 4.2, Community School Boards of Oregon. Hi, welcome. Right, we have Gary Richardson here. You right there. Thank you.
See,
The last.
I
board
don't know, the
meeting, we
last
were-
crew was standing up.
At the last board meeting, we were asked, you asked me to get some more information, and I thought, what better way to do this from the horse's mouth himself? Because instead of me doing a report, I said, Gary, can you help us out? And he was, more than willing to come and share tonight, so we appreciate you being here.
So I'm Gary Richardson. I'm here representing the Community School Boards of Oregon. Started up a year and a half ago. We currently have 3 school districts, Harrisburg, Grants Pass, and Eagle Point. And we started that to be able to have a voice that is not the Oregon School Boards Association. I could get into those reasons. OSBA in the past used to be pretty decent. Every school board member in Oregon had 1 vote. They changed their governance model 15, 16 years ago. Reduced the voting to districts, gave Portland 5 votes, Beaverton 2 or 3. I don't know. I sent out an email. I'm sure you probably saw that. So at that point, OSBA became very metropolitan dominated. So the information that comes out of OSBA is mostly tailored to not create any friction with those very large districts. So we find that they're really ignoring most of the other 187 school districts in Oregon. So we formed Community School Boards of Oregon to give us a better voice in Oregon for the needs of our community. Specifically, community support, local decisions, and parental rights. So those 3 things are part of our vision statement. Things we've done last year, I think it was, ODE was doing the health curriculum. I kind of hate to be indelicate here, but I guess you got to say it. Their health curriculum in 6th grade, they were teaching the students various forms of sex, including anal sex, in their recommendation. And in 7th grade, they were teaching those same things, except showing them techniques. That was part of their standard. So Community School Boards of Oregon came out against that, saying that's not age appropriate for those children. Push back on Salem. I wouldn't say we were wildly successful. We did get them to move that up a couple grades. So those are the kinds of things that we're trying to give a voice to our community. We are not replacing the Oregon School Board Association. And we're also, I'm going to say, we're not a radical organization. We're trying to work in the system. We follow the law. We do things appropriately, but one of the things that school boards have, the power you have is policy. Nobody disputes that. ODE doesn't dispute it. OSBA doesn't dispute it. You have the power to make the rules for your community. And there are many things, particularly related to the sexuality aspect, which are related to community standards. OSBA, when they put out their policy, tend to write those for the big metropolitan areas. The community standards, at least for us in Grants Pass, very different than that. So we are writing policy for our community standards. So if you just follow what OSBA is putting out, you're not going to be able to do that. So the other thing that we found after we formed the organization is there's starting to be a number of organizations in other states. And so they've banded together to create school boards for academic excellence. Their focus is strictly on the academic aspect. They try to avoid some of the controversial stuff. They just want to know, why aren't kids reading? And in particular, I'm going to say I would applaud your district here. That's probably the most discussion about reading that I've heard at a school board meeting. So good job for that. And especially when you're talking about comprehension, see, I happen to be on my board. I'm 100% third grade reading, you know, everybody laughs, but that's my push. And so I had a little saying, which was, Tom hit a fly ball, but Paul caught it and threw Fred out at home. If you don't know anything about baseball, you did not comprehend that. So it's not all about flags. Some kind of way you got to get some experience and comprehension in there. So I just wanted to compliment you guys for that. Some of the things that you could do with policy that Community School Boards of Oregon, also SBAE is helping with policy descriptions. I noticed in the news that in Springfield, they have an elementary school teacher who showed an inappropriate video to kindergarten. Given the way OSBA writes policy, there's not going to be any particular action taken, I don't think, because the policy doesn't support that they can do that. And the union will come in and weigh in and say, look, your policy doesn't give you any reason to enforce that kind of community standard. So I would encourage you to work on your policies. This particular one relates to the category of material that's exposed to students, generally isn't covered by OSBA policy. They just came out with a new update, so I'm assuming that's going to show up for you guys here soon. That would be IIA for instructional materials. They actually define classroom materials, which would keep materials that teachers would use for the students. But if you look at the complete OSBA draft policy, doesn't list anything in there about selection criteria or what your community standards are. So pornography is one thing. For some reason, the OSBA policy doesn't say anything. Over in Grants Pass, we are currently working on this policy. I'm hoping, but I'm only one member of the board, that we add no pornography to the selection criteria. And pornography is a thing that's defined based on community standards. So it's not the community standards in Portland or Salem, it's the community standards here in Prineville or Grants Pass or Eagle Point or Harrisburg. So you have the ability to write those policies for your community. So that's, I'm kind of all over the map there. Happy to answer any questions you have.
So if we join your board and there is new policy coming down with controversial things like the health curriculum, defining, material in the classroom, then, the community school boards helps us to find those keywords and helps us to
Yes.
shape the policy.
Yeah, we'd be able to give you information back that, backed up by Oregon revised statutes and things like that to support your position when you essentially get a little pushback from Salem. And I don't know if you realize this, but ODE and OSBA are practically indistinguishable anymore. Like the deputy executive director of OSBA became the chief of staff or something for ODE. I mean, they just change positions all the time. So
Thank you, first of all, for making the trip. Grants Pass, through the winter, over the mountains.
well, I did stop
sitting
at
through the
Bend.
meeting. Appreciate all that. That's a bit of a sacrifice. Can you talk a little bit about governance, structure, and cost for belonging to community school boards?
Governance structure.
How are you
for-
governed? Do you have a
Oh,
board? Do
we
you
have
all
a board.
vote? How does all that work? And then what's the cost of membership?
We have a board, and, we've had one member leave, I think, but other than that, it's been the same board for the last year and a half or so. And, cost structure is we are asking for $1 per ADM. As of, I forget what we picked, I think it was July 1st or something, just to pick a spot for when ADM, you have a specific number.
So is it one board member per member district, or how does it work? I mean, if Prineville, if Crook County joins, then does Crook County get a board seat?
No,
Right?
there is a board, currently. I'd have to actually go review our bylaws for, how we get replacements. That wasn't top of mind, but we do have a process in our bylaws for replacing board members.
So of the dollar per ADM, is that gives us the ability to go ask you about, hey, here's what we think we want to rewrite this policy to. And you can check our edits, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Well, actually, we'd probably give you advice and send you some text related to that. But primarily joining the school boards of Oregon is giving you a larger voice in Salem and with ODE. Because the larger we grow, the more they have to pay attention to us. And they did the last time around, like I said, with the health curriculum, which that's going to be a tough one because it still wasn't a great set of standards they came up with. And so you should be like this year, next year, your health curriculum is
We're not visiting that until Scott's off the board.
okay. So it's coming soon.
And it's gonna be hot.
That's more social studies. than-
Yes.
Just kind of referring to like for the dollar, for like, what are your services? Like, what do you
I just didn't
do?
follow, I didn't.
So I was just making sure that we
Yes,
got
yes,
Steve's question, like, what are the services?
What does the dollar per ADM give you by joining?
Oh, we know the advocacy, so like
Right.
policy work, lawyer, insurance, like what, just like. talk a
So
little bit about-
insurance, so that's what I'm saying. You're not gonna leave OSBA. We aren't large enough at this point to be able to do anything with insurance. Insurance is somewhat related to size. We did look into that, but it's gonna be some amount of time before we're large enough to be able to answer that kind of thing. As we get larger, we will start doing some legal services, but we are still not large enough to be able to offer that at this point. So it's mostly policy work, and we do have a lot of avenues for training for school boards related to policy work through SBAE. So there's a lot of resources there for your board members. But I'm gonna say mostly what you get for the dollar is the advocacy part.
Well, I did notice that, I noticed you guys because during the Senate bill, was it HB 240?
Just this last year,
Yeah, you guys were all over the news and putting out statements and advocating. Like in relation to like the whole curriculum and really controversial sexual topics involving pornography and different things, so that caught my eye. So I think for me personally, it was refreshing to see something different than, because everything that I see that comes out from ODE and OSBA has that Portland and Salem stamp, every single thing, and so it was nice to see there was other school boards that were starting to say, no, we're not Portland and Salem, and we have a smaller community, and so as school districts or more rural communities are able, it's hard to have a voice on your own. You know, so like if Crook County says, oh, I don't like this, but if you have 4, 5, 6 schools that say, no, I'm sorry, they have to listen to you.
and it's,
So I think that's kind of, I mean, I might be speaking over you, but is that kind of what you're saying? It's just gathering this,
Yes.
smaller districts together to advocate.
and it's already had an impact. I don't know if you noticed, but OSBA created the Rural School Boards Caucus member just recently. That was, I don't know what they'd say about it, but that didn't happen until Community School Boards of Oregon showed up. And then that's when OSBA added that Rural School Boards Caucus member. So it's, once you get together collectively, and the more of us that get together, the larger our voice will be in Salem.
I motion for the board to join the Community School Boards of Oregon. Specifically, you can make a motion anytime.
We have a motion on the table. So we have a motion on the table for the, our school board to join the Community School Boards of Oregon. And we have a second on the table. Do we have any discussion?
Do we know what it's gonna cost us?
So I will say, since
Take
this
the
is,
report AMW and multiply by 1.
hey, but it's pro, I was gonna say, since this is December, it'd be half that till July 1.
After the holiday, that's really January.
Do you have like a sample contract that you generally have districts fill out as they join, or is it just?
No.
So we're good, I mean, I could revise that. We're gonna be joining.
33 divided by half, so it's probably gonna cost around
Half
50,000.
that.
For now.
For now,
Prorated.
but for now, because we'll get
$3,300
started.
3,607.
on-
Current AMW.
And then prorate that.
3670 a year max. Unless they raise their dues, because we're not on the board.
Yeah.
You negotiate a board seat.
If Scott retires from this board, can he join it?
Stay on this one, so I don't think he's gonna wanna get.
Under discussion, Madam Chairman, I would encourage your board to grapple with that conversation. If you're gonna add members, then, they're not gonna say, well, the first thing they got on, don't get to tell everybody else what to do. They're gonna want a process that's orderly and fair
Sure.
to have a voice. And that's one of the objections to, as you pointed out, we used to have that at OSBA until it was done away with. So, it's something I think structurally you guys might want to think about. I'm totally supportive of this motion for now, by the way, but, maybe you could lean into that as we go forward.
Dollar has bitch his seat on the board. Yeah, it's true, your seat on the board.
At this point in time.
Back in.
Okay, so do we have any other discussion? I'm walking on this one, to be completely honest with you. I mean, I see the good of it. I totally understand everything about it. I'm just, for the amount of money, so we get advocacy.
Then you just go.
I know, we love for discussion, so I was just giving my 2 cents, which I'm pleased. over at this point. So I guess we will vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. 4-1, Tammy. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, and
Appreciate your time.
please feel free to email me. And we'll beg forgiveness. I think I'm gonna leave because I'm gonna be in Grants Pass tonight.
Oh, yes.
Definitely leave. Careful.
Yes,
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
I didn't hear who seconded that motion. Who seconded it?
Just.
Yeah, but. So we need to define our community standards. Is that what I heard him say?
That helps it with, they're helping you
Yes, but he
define
said it-
your
you don't-
community standards and.
To be able to defend some of those policies, you have to, they have to meet your community standards. So at that point, we need to define our own, this community needs to define our own community standards to base all of our policies and work off of it. Got what I understood?
Yeah.
Well, I would point out that at the rate we're going, we're never gonna get the policy. IAA. We'll see how we do with this next section of the agenda, but.
Okay, 4.3 CTE pathways and certification update with Mr. Cochran.
You can pass it back. We got two handouts related to this, just grab one each.
I'm joining.
They left you.
That's all right.
Sorry.
That's all right. Kind of just the hype man.
First of all, thank you guys so much for giving us a little bit of time tonight just to kind of update on some of the things that have happened since we last met. And I believe it was the August board meeting. So we're gonna go through a few things that we want to update and show you some things that are happening inside of our high school.
Keep moving. All right. I'll give you the.
Yeah. So a few things that we're gonna go over tonight is our pathways overview, obviously a certification update and upcoming opportunities for our students at our high school. We're gonna talk about a pilot program with our employability score, and then also some future goals of our programs and those types of things.
I shouldn't have added all the animations. You can just kind of keep clicking for a minute, just get the page. I was trying to get fancy. Sorry. Keep going, Eric. There you go. See how I did that, you guys? Pretty awesome, huh? A couple more. There you go. All right, there we go. Hey, so credit to Dr. Skinner for kind of pushing us to do this pathways process. A lot of people to give credit to our counseling folks, Darren Kessie, Brittany Haddon, Sean Swick, Kelly Dunn in the Aspire Center, Ryan, Joe Vieira, Bree, Joel, lots of people that were part of this. We threw it together pretty quickly. But what the pathways are I think there's 12 different pathways that we came up with. And yes, there is a performing arts pathway, Scott. So those are all in there. And what they are is those are just a track for a student's education. And so each student was met with, parents were invited, and students at the end of that meeting were to declare kind of what their pathway was. And of course, that could change as they go through their high school career. It's going to change a ton, right? I mean, a lot of freshmen don't know exactly what they're going to do for their career, so that could all change, but at least it gets them thinking about what they want to do and what kind of training they want to have. And so this is just like a brief, the handout you have is just kind of a brief explanation of it. If you select a pathway selection document there, Eric, can you do that? That pulls up a little Google Doc and it shows kind of like what the conversation was with the kids. You can kind of scroll down. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. So each one of the pathways, this is kind of the questions that were asked of the kids, and that conversation was had and documented. And then as they scroll, each one of those different pathways has kind of a menu of the courses that they can take. And a lot of the courses overlap because they're all core courses. But down at the bottom, there's the extras. And then we kind of in our phase 1 of certifications, put down the certifications that students could earn. And so at least kids can kind of keep track of, and counselors can keep track of what kids need to do to move along the pathway that they choose. So that process was completed in November. And it's going to occur on an annual basis. One thing that's going to change for next year is we're going to meet with the incoming 9th graders before the school year begins. We didn't do that this year because we started.
after the school year began, but our plan is to meet with all those incoming ninth graders, so they at least have an idea of what we offer and what they might be interested in. So that was the pathways overview.
Jake, do parents see these pathways?
Yeah,
Or
they,
just the council?
the parents see them too. We sent some information out on email to parents and also through our Parent Square CCHS note.
And then next year, our eighth grade, so one of the
Yep.
things I'd ask is for entering ninth grade, so entering the ninth grade, but when they are exiting eighth grade, we need to have a meeting with all of the eighth grade students and parents so that we can start their pathway and trajectory right off the bat, so that we're not waiting to say, oh, I really want to be a welder, oh, I really, in your senior year, and it's just too difficult to get the hours and the certification and the internships or whatever that pathway might be through. So we're really wanting to start it as early as possible to say, what do you think that you want to do or be? And of course, those things can change, but at least it gives us a starting, pathway to get them going. So we want parents to be very, very much involved. So we're going to have those parent meetings in the eighth graders going into ninth grade.
One thing, and I just want to emphasize this because I love, it actually came out of a conversation we had. If you go back to that pathway selection document, Eric. One of the things we heard from stakeholders was that, when you work in the school system, you can see, oh yeah, you take this freshman year, this sophomore year, this junior, but I think a lot of parents, especially as they're having their first kid go through high school, don't see that big picture. And that's what I love that Mr. Huffman and his team were able to do is for each strand, it shows parents in really plain language, hey, here are the classes you need to take if you want your kid to get an associate's degree. Here are the classes that if they want to go into the military route. So it really breaks it down and it's really user friendly for families that might not know the system, but want to definitely be plugged in and help their kid, on that journey. So awesome.
It's also gave us a lot of really good information and data that we can pull. Especially if we have a guest speaker that wants to come in and talk to a specific group, we can pull that data out of these pathway conversations and give them a real guided group that actually is interested in those areas. And so we tend to get a lot more participation out of it when we're pulling out those actual subgroups. So.
Questions about the pathways?
We just add one little bit. I think this is great. Great job. Very good job.
But.
And I call you back to a previous conversation, how important it is to keep the focus on getting all this down with these college credits in the transcript. So that parents can pull that up when they get to the end of their senior year and see it in one place. That came up at an ESD.
We have that too, though. We have our registrar, students can see all the different college credits they've earned and who they've articulated with. We have that resource now.
But it's not on the transcript.
It's not on the transcript.
Separate piece.
Correct. You're right.
My concern is once they leave and they've been out for a couple of years and they've lost
Copy.
activity to register, then they can't find it again.
Yeah.
And it's so important to be able to move forward. We keep that further education.
I don't know. We just started getting it all in one. I mean, we just kind of started organizing it in a better way for parents last year. So I don't know how far we go back in terms of tracking down those college credits on a transcript.
I have some ideas on that.
It came up last week at another statewide meeting, and we're not the only ones struggling with that. There's a lot of struggle, and it's a commonly identified problem in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
We explored a couple options on how to do that on the transcript and couldn't find something that worked for everyone, but there's some things we can do through Synergy, our SIS. Now that the high school is tracking those dual credits earned, that we could upload that as a supporting document, and that way it'd stay in our system. So 10 years down the line, we'd still have that record. So that's we've taken some good steps on this, and I think that's a good next step as well.
I also think that maybe kind of a step-by-step, maybe added to your guys' website or under the high school for like a parent tutorial. Because I personally just emailed Mr. Kessie because I got an email from COCC that congratulations, your student is ready to pay for their credit. Well, which student? I have 3. I asked Eric, how am I supposed to know which kid this is? So it's like, okay, so I just told them all, if you are expecting a college credit, go see Mr. Kessie, and then Kessie's like, no, it's not me, it's actually the registrar. So I think maybe dialing that in where parents know where to then send their kid.
Okay.
Cause I definitely thought it was the counseling office and that's not where they go for those
Yeah.
credits.
Yeah.
Well, and the even more fun part of that is when they haven't told you about that.
Well,
they-
that's, yes.
Filing the night before it's due, because that's when you file, right? And, you know, and you find out you have to file this, pay this transcript in order to carry the credit forward.
Yeah.
Or you can't pull the transcript down from parchment until you pay it, and now you have 2 hours till that happens.
Yeah, we may have missed our window at this
On
point.
the deadline,
And all student college applications have them on the deadline.
on the deadline. Yeah. So just to give you guys kind of a snapshot of where we are at this moment in time, if you remember back to our August board meeting, one of the things that we heard is that focus on certificates. And so we really kind of came back as we were starting this new semester. We sat down and we talked with our teachers, looked at our programs, kind of looked at them on the inside and the outside, and the ability to bring in certificates in those areas and those CTE pathways. And so with a lot of work from our teachers and kind of looking at our curriculum, because school was starting up in just a couple weeks, where can we go with what we have, but also plan for the future? And our teachers really kind of jumped in where they could and brought in certificates that obviously are on the foundational level. But have the ability to be stacked and move forward to the point where they grow into bigger things. And so in 3 months, you can see we put 255 certifications in one term with our students at Crook County High School and at Pioneer, which is a really cool operation. Those are happening inside of our CTE classes with our teachers. And when we can't, we did go above kind of what we could do inside of our classes, and we partnered with some outside sources. As you guys know, BTI, Baker Technical Institute, has been a great partnership for us. Doug Dalton has been super awesome to work with. He's came to our school. We've worked through issues where those deficits in our areas of CTE where we may not be able to provide a certificate because of whether it's curriculum or staffing or levels. They were able to partner with us and be able to come in beside us and still get our kids certified in certain areas in those CTE areas. And so one of the things, Eric, can you click on that certification tracker?
Make sure before you put it on, that's not gonna have any student names on it.
No, I hit it
Okay,
already.
Thank you.
Yep.
There we go. Okay.
That's a good question. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And so, we pulled, that data, you can see that pathway, we're pulling that data into every student there. And then, as we go through this, you can see they're all color coded by our CTE area. And so, ag, business, computer science, and these are our certificates that are being offered as we speak inside of those areas. And so obviously we have, 900 and some entries of students wise. But as a student completes this, we track it, we keep, those, and then we total them as the bottom. As you can see, we have a lot of boxes that are empty, but we also have 255 that are complete after this term. And so we are obviously going to be building on these, stacking them into a higher one. But for our first term, our teachers have worked really hard to get those numbers for students actually crossing that line and getting a certificate that they can take for the rest of their life. They can put that in their resumes. Those are things, maybe they decide, my pathway was ag science and now I'm switching it to something else. Well, with a certificate, those stay with them and that goes with them. It's something they can hold on to. Especially some of these foundational ones that they are cross curricular a little bit. They go from one to another. And so that goes with them. And that's our, as we build that, these are going to become bigger and bigger. The one thing you guys should know is obviously with our first trimester, we put some things down that we believe that we could get done and cross that line. And now our teachers are starting to expand that. And so they're coming to me and having those conversations of, we were doing this certificate. I think we can move to this level and this level. And so we can get to that second and third levels. And so that's kind of our phase one. We're looking to go to phase 2 and phase 3 with our certificate levels.
So Ryan,
Yeah.
with the certificates, how many, I know you have 255 total, but is that like for different certificates that have like 50 students each, or like, that's what I'm looking for, the bill, yeah,
Mhm. Yep.
how like. That makes sense. I've been asking.
We have blueprint certification, OSHA 10, CPR first aid, food handlers. I mean, there's a bunch of different ones.
Yeah, as you can see, we've got, animal science right there, chainsaw operation, you can see 1920 in those categories. And so, as we go through that,
Blueprint one was BTI.
blueprint, our OSHA 10, we've got 24, we've got another 20 some kids working on, some more of those. And so those categories.
What I love about this is you can also see students' interests too, right?
Mhm.
So where you could see like, hey, we have 71 that's already, we're level 1, so we need to really look at level 2 is.
Yes, absolutely.
This is and then that may change, in 2 years, but
Yeah.
it gives you guys the ability to say, wow, it was, like for instance, it was foods, and then maybe next year now it's something completely opposite. So I think it also gives you the ability to adapt to the students you have coming through the program.
Yeah, that's a really good point because, obviously when we see an area that we see a lot more coming in,
Right.
that is an area that we can point our attention to move to those next levels.
I was also impressed with the wildland fire. That's a big certificate in Eastern Oregon through college. That's got a lot of avenues really close to home, and we
Yeah.
have a lot of wildland firefighters in our community.
We have a
So
plan for that to do, I think. Really kind of.
The wilderness first aid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've got
that's our Wolfer.
we're starting with like chainsaw and those stackables and then thinking, okay, then we have like a mid-level kind of first aid, and then there's one that's like an 80 hour, so there's several that you can get.
that's also
And that's, yeah.
right into a field at 18 graduating high school. I mean, you can set out on fires as long as you've got your card,
Mhm.
and you can backpack and do,
Yeah, it
have
goes into those, yeah, those
exactly, you're
absolutely,
ready to go at
That's
18.
those different jobs. Yeah, absolutely. And that's where that partnership with BTI has been so great at, taking that to our, here's a level 2 with BTI is that 18, it's called a woofer, inside of natural resources. And then, hey, then once we get some kids here, then we can move it to that 80 hour and they can come in alongside us and provide that. So. Go ahead. Thank you. So just so you guys kind of know, partnering with BTI, we're trying to offer some right now certificates for some of our seniors that want to go out into the workforce and get a job that is just a little bit of that next level. And so BTI is offering some of our, we call it a seminar or workshop model, where they're going to come in the spring. And a lot of these certifications, you have to be 18 years old. And so we're really going to focus and that through that pathway chart, look at, hey, where are areas that you want to go? And then try to match up some of our students to this seminar or workshop model where BTI comes in, they put on a class, they do the hours right there, they get the certification, they take the test. And so not necessarily a full class of it, but we pull them out for a subsection to get a certificate for them to, obviously put on their resume and get a good job. And so this spring, we're going to offer a few of those spring and summer model. Obviously flagger, forklift, land grade certification, first aid for construction, excavation, trenching. We've talked about in the past our heavy equipment. That's a longer summer course that we've kind of secured with BTI about a $45,000 grant to put some of our kids through excavation again. So that's going to be awesome for those students. But we're calling that our workshop model, that we don't necessarily have a full 12 weeks of a class of it, but we're going to pull a subsection out. And so we can get some of our seniors really, moving towards a career once they get past high school. And so these are our upcoming opportunities. Doug's kind of working with his staff and figuring out dates and times that we can say, put it on a deal. Once we do that, we will start recruiting students. We'll go to that pathway. We'll pull from it. We'll talk with counselors. We'll talk with CTE teachers and find out those groups. And then we'll start advertising that to our parents, letting them know about the opportunities that Crook County High School is giving them and their students if they want to, go into that. And so, for example, we did a fall one. It just kind of fell in place with BTI about chainsaw certification. We pulled that data looking for students that are going into wildland fire, wanting to go into firefighting. We pulled them in, had conversations with them, say, is this something you're interested in? We did this model where we pulled them out for so many hours. They went through the whole process, got certified that day, which was really cool. And our students really love that ability to take that day. And it's
it's learning in a different way and they appreciated that ability to be pulled out, go through training, get some hands-on experience, take tests, get certified. And so, it was a really cool model.
It's also like the BTI, so like at the last board meeting, we approved the supplemental budget and nursing and phlebotomy. So I know Grant has been interviewing and looking at some of those nurses, and so Doug will then help us, with those certifications. So, we are looking at, those bigger, I know that was some of the questions from the board, those bigger paying job types.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely a superintendent goal. And so we work with Doug to try to see which ones can we do. And if that continues to be a board goal, community goal, and if we do end up going out on bond, we think about kind of that center, a building, that machinery, those types of things. I know that you did some surveying and some talking with kids like auto tech, like that has been a big one. I think that you said that our kids are very much interested in. Well, we need, the things for oil changes, tire rotations, we need the lifts, we need those things so that we can get our kids certified in these bigger paying jobs. Vet tech, I know Doug was laughing about my nail tech. He says, we'll be the first in the state. We'll put a curriculum together and get your nail tech going.
Second.
So. Attendance. And she said, what do you want to do? And she said, I want to be a nail tech. So Bree ran in and said, Dr. Skinner, I've got your first nail tech. And I said, yes. So we have great plans to put into place. So we hear the board saying, what about these bigger paying jobs? And so we definitely have plans. It's just going to take a little bit more, thinking and processing in future to be able to have the space, the building, the machines, the tools to be able to offer those. And that is absolutely what we want to do. We want to be able to provide our students multiple avenues. If they want to get an associate's degree, they want to go to an Ivy League college, but we have students that also want to do some trades, some things, vocation wise. So so we're working great with BTI, but it's going to take a little bit more to be able to get those bigger paying jobs kind of in our school.
Ryan, on these certificates, does BTI come, do they volunteer at that time? Do we have to pay an instructor to come?
Yeah, depending on the course, for some of our courses, like our blueprint, we have they've came in beside, looked at our standards, what we're teaching, what activities we're doing, what assignments we're giving them. And they've said, yep, we're going to sponsor you to say, we're going to do this in-house. For a lot of them, we're paying for that instructor to come in and pay for that program to certify them.
But then the one he gave us was at $45,000.
The heavy equipment, yeah, we found a grant for that to write a grant,
He's really
so.
working with us to try to give us opportunities, kind of for those grants when he can, but yes.
Yeah.
You're gonna have kids apply. I know Jen and I's son both did that.
Yes.
I know that was an application.
Yep,
process.
we're gonna go through that same process. We have to kind of identify the fingers of the grant, exactly what needs to be covered in that grant situation for all that money. But the conversations we're already having with students is, hey, this is coming down this road. This looks really good. Hey, stop by my office. Let's talk about it. And I have an application already ready for them. And I've gotten, I think, 4 back already. So we haven't officially got a date and the official word that we've got the grant, but it's looking really good. So we're trying to kind of get ahead of that a little bit.
How many spots?
What's
How
that?
many spots would you do?
I believe there's 5 to 6 spots in that. Yeah. So,
So we want to pilot, depending on how you guys react tonight, we want to pilot,
hey, thank you.
something called an employability score. This has been used in some other school districts. The one that we looked at, a few years ago, Ryan and I looked at it, it was at a South Albany school district. And really the idea of an employability score, like a simple version of it is almost like back at the middle school when there was an academic and a citizenship grade. An employability score, the goal of it would be for students to have a score or something that they could bring to a local employer to say that, hey, I'm a reliable employee. I show up every day on time and I complete my work. Which, like you said, Cheyenne, sometimes it's hard finding good employees. So you said that before. Okay, so I think some things to keep in mind on this are, we don't want this to be something where, students, if they don't have a great employability score, they feel like it's going to be held against them. And so it's really just a tool for some students if they want to highlight some of the effort and things that they've done. they can use that and we can work with local employers. Like Les Schwab has asked us about this several times because we pitched it to them a few years ago and they've asked us about this. And so I think it could be a really good relationship that we build with local businesses where a student who may not be like the star athlete or on the leadership or, you know, a great performing arts person, just someone who just is a journeyman who comes in and just does what they're supposed to do every day. And is just a hard worker. They can then take that score and say, hey, look, I'd like a job. Here's my employability score. Here's what my teachers say about me. And so that's kind of what we want is just another tool for students to, you know, earn gainful employment. And it's kind of broken down by those three categories. Attendance, of course, and it's unexcused absences only. So athletes and students that go hunting or get excused absences, those don't get counted against them. It's just the unexcused absences. There's a rubric on the soft skills and then just timeliness. So do you show up on time? And if you want it, we can look at the rubric if you want. If you guys have questions, you can look at it. Yeah, click on it.
One thing to add is me and Joel kind of jump on quarterly with Les Schwab and find out, you know, from one of our biggest employers, what do you need? What are you guys looking for? What's the gaps right now? And they're constantly having these same conversations. We struggle to find somebody that shows up on time, that shows up every day, ready to work. Their other big areas is these two soft skills. How well do they work cooperatively and respectfully with others? And so that's a big thing that we believe in is are they getting their tasks done on time and accurately? And so those are our soft skills that we looked at to kind of go over. But I will tell you, Les Schwab is, we want this. They are like, soon as you get this up and rolling, we would love to see it. We want to participate. And so I think just that input from our community is pretty valuable.
Is
So-
that the store? Sorry. I didn't interrupt.
No, it's
Is
okay.
that stores or that a distribution or production or
Both.
all of it?
Yeah,
I've talked to
corporate,
people at the store.
from, yeah, they're recruiting people to, yeah.
So teachers, for each one of their students would have a drop down 1 through 5 of these two categories and they would rate it. And then those scores would then be averaged for a student each trimester. And they would get that employability score.
And so that has over time the ability to, they see it, I've got to make some changes and they move to move that score forward and better. And so as they go, so.
And again, it's theirs to use. It's not something that we share out with anybody. It just goes home to the student and the parent. It can be a conversation with the student and the parent. And then they could use that score if they wanted to, if they think it would benefit them.
Well, the kids are principal. Yeah.
Well, it increases maybe their motivation to attend school, which, as you know, is really important here right now. So I don't see a negative in it, but
I'm sure there's one somewhere.
Yeah.
So you're gonna ask teachers 3 times a year to give a subjective rating to 150 students that they see during the day.
Mhm.
And you're not expected to hear from CCEA on that?
no, I don't think so.
Extra workload that needs to be compensated? I do. I think that's your first
We've
time
talked
to get
about that.
LT.
We've talked about that, but I mean, if it's a drop down, it's a rubric. I feel like it's pretty low burden, but.
And some of the few conversations and you're exactly probably right there, we will probably have to work through that part of it. We've also had teachers that they really want to be able to use this. They want to be able to give them some feedback of, we have students that are really brilliant and come in, they don't ever show up. They show up when they know they have to take those tests and they do fine on those tests. But when it comes to that work score of showing up every day, they don't do that. And so it's a chance for them to give that feedback that way also. So.
So yeah, sounds like you should try it. I have a question on your 20%, the timeliness, because all tardies are unexcused. You know that, right?
Not all tardies, it shouldn't.
Yeah,
You can
so
get
when you get
excused
your
tardies.
notice in parent view or parent square, whatever the new app is, if they're absent, you have the ability to send a note and excuse it. If they're tardy, you don't have the ability to
Oh, really?
respond any way, shape or form. And then if you call, it's like, oh, they were just tardy. Okay, so I just.
Okay.
I think that
Well,
covers,
we can,
yeah, when teachers hold students or they'll give an excuse, so they come in tardy, they'll take that and excuse the tardy because they were with another teacher.
Oh, they're meeting with a coach.
Yeah.
we can work through that. It doesn't have to exactly be this. It's
And I don't know.
our initial,
Tardy
it's our initial thought process.
very well be an excuse and just, it might
going through that app, I've never had the ability to excuse a tardy, I guess.
I think one of your kids is really motivated not to be tardy. I've seen him running to class before.
Yeah, big motivation.
So just to cover some future goals that we have, obviously, we want to build upon our certifications, build those next levels, those high certificates to get high wage jobs. So that's our thing, as we are just one term into this and really got kind of going as school's starting this year. We're going to be building upon that and going and expanding that. As we look into those bigger certificates, I'll be expanding facilities, increased certification offerings. We want to continue that partnership with BTI. That has been a great partnership. Absolutely great to work with. They've just came alongside. In fact, Doug Dalton was here last weekend for our basketball tournament, and we came over and we had conversations on the side of the court before their game. And so it's been a really great connection between the two. We also want to move forward, as we start planning for certifications. We plan on expanding our CTE areas, those student listening sessions, being able to pull data, have those conversations of, sometimes I have the greatest thought in the world that I think we should go in this direction. And then I start talking to kids and what they actually want, and I find out I am completely wrong. And that's great for us to find out, because ultimately we want to do what's best for kids, and I could push them in some direction. If that's not the direction they want to go, we want to help them be successful in what they want to be in life. And so being able to pull that from our areas. Health science, we're already in the process with phlebotomy, with the hiring of a new school nurse, partnering with them. And so being able to use their talents and teaching in that way. Obviously, computer science, we're looking at areas for data center tech, cybersecurity, as you guys know, and we've talked about, I think, at our last meeting, the importance of that as we go in the future, especially with our data centers on top of the hill, how we can be a great, employment area that those people look at us first, and for those trained individuals. And so we're really looking at what that looks like, having conversations about maybe a mini summer class so that it gets them kind of ready to go in that area. Obviously, auto tech, that's our number one right now that we see from students that we need. And obviously we're looking how do we get that accomplished? Obviously, we got to have some facilities and some things like that. But as we look, in the future with nail tech and those types of things, obviously we're pulling from what our kids want. So
Brian, with all of your future goals, have you guys partnered with the middle school and seen how they align with your vision with these kids coming up 6, 7, 8? Where does their CTE align with your guys'?
yeah, so about 2 years ago, we really tried to put all the arrows in the right direction. And that was, we were one of the first middle schools. In fact, we've probably had 15 or 20 middle schools come visit ours to look how we're piloting some things. And that's where our career and ready lab all started. Was we want to give little pieces of what we're doing at the high school so that students can get, when they take their 6th, 7th, or 8th grade year, they're getting different modules inside of that relate to our high school classes and our areas. And so we're having those conversations at the career level of, hey, these are options for you. We want you to try this, see what you like, explore. And so we've really taken that explore category and saying, hey, we're going to offer you a bunch of stuff. Obviously, our robotics, our engineering, those are areas that we have more full classes, but that career and ready lab is our avenue to kind of get them thinking about that area. And so as they get into that 8th grade, we're really going to start looking at having those conversations a lot earlier about those careers. But our whole goal is to give them that opportunity to explore. At middle school, we all know that, maybe their heart that they believe in middle school, maybe 1 out of 100 students may continue on that path, and that is okay. The explore part is knowing what you want to go into and what you don't want to go into is just as valuable. And so having those conversations, giving them opportunity to do hands-on things, I think is super important. So that college and career ready lab is all hands-on. They look at the careers, they start doing things that are inside of those careers. They're 2 to 3 weeks long, so they don't get burned out on it, and then they go explore something else. And so we're really trying to make sure that the arrows at our middle school start pointing them into those opportunities at the high school, so that when they do get their freshman year, they have a plan. Now, that plan may change, but they at least have that beginning plan. And as they define, their route, their life path, they're able to, oh, I've done that. I don't like that. I'm gonna go this direction. And that's okay too.
My son still thinks he's gonna be a wide receiver in the NFL, so sixth grade's probably a little too early. Yeah, no, I get it.
Down, like.
Yep, yeah, if you,
Find their future.
yes. So if you go into our college career lab, they're pretty cool. They have a whole home maintenance lab where they're doing sheetrock, they're putting door handles on, they're doing windows, they're doing tape and texture and doing those kind of things. And so they're getting some of those hands-on things for construction happening. Yes, I do for my own home. So,
Come be an aide. Yeah.
perfect.
Thank you so much.
Any questions?
I just want to take a minute and kind of change your history a little bit. We did discuss this in August at the board level. We did not agree, we did not vote to go in the direction of certifications. We just discussed it.
Mhm.
Staff then took this whole plan and staff built this out without board direction. You just keep reporting back to us. But you did a great job with this. We were not, I think, in August, attempting to replace the really good work staff had done previously around building a system based on credits. And you just bolted on another better piece that made it even more successful. And I just want to say, I hope we can keep the focus on both the credits and the certifications, and the staff continues leaning into what's really good with kids, taking ideas and run with them. So thank you for really good staff work.
I appreciate that. I will tell you, our teachers did a ton of work, and they really dug into their programs and try to do those add-ons, but still keep the structure of what they're doing and the hands-on stuff that they're providing.
They're doing a fantastic job. These are really good numbers showing.
Right.
Really good work.
That it doesn't matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
4.4 middle school science curriculum is Carrie.
Keep putting me on there for like 20 minutes and I keep coming up with,
You just click your way through.
oh. Oh, okay.
You're gonna click
There,
yourself.
there. All right. I used to do this a lot. I don't know if it's gonna come back to me or not,
Steve, I
but.
trust Jake and Ryan with that.
Oh, I gave it to
Oh,
Ryan.
thanks to Ryan. I was gonna say.
I got tired of it.
Good evening, you guys. I am just here to provide an update. I told you I would come back and do it after the middle school science pilots were complete, and so that is what I'm here to tell you. So our middle school science program completed 2 pilots, as you guys asked them to do sometime back in late spring, early summer. They completed pilots of a program called Carolina. Carolina Biological is the company name or the publisher name on that, and Style by Style. And so through early fall and early winter, actually just completed, both Carolina and Style pilots were completed at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And then since then, teachers have moved back to STEM scopes, which is the curriculum that they have been using for the past 6 years. And they will continue to use that for the remainder of the year. There is a lot of reflections. Teachers gave out surveys to kids. They wrote down reflections on how the pilots went, but the 2 main pieces is that Carolina as a core curriculum, they believe was not effective for students or teachers, and the feedback they got. The phenomena that was attached to each unit was engaging and interesting, so that opening piece for Carolina was really engaging and interesting for kids, and you could see that in their comments. But then after that, as the unit went on, Carolina lost kind of the excitement, the engagement, and the rigor. It was complicated without being rigorous. So kids felt like they were given low-level work, but really complicated directions to get there. And the curriculum is fairly new as a published curriculum in the way that it's outside of the kits that you kind of had experienced, the supplemental kits and the activity kits that you had experienced. So they took a kind of a free open sci ed curriculum and they pulled it back. And so it is growing and expanding, and I think that the publishers will continue to reframe some of those, but right now it's missing some of the pieces that they were interested in. So style of the two piloted curriculums was still the favored curriculum based on teacher and student feedback. Again, some of those same things that they appreciated the first go around. It's flexibility, the local help with curriculum, the differentiation possibilities, the Spanish access, and the multiple testing or the multiple ways to assess kids. However, we know that style is not a popular choice. We heard that from the beginning. And so what we have done is we've met with the middle school science team about next steps. They're considering two things, either to postpone adoption for one more year while they go back to the core curriculum, the ODE approved curriculums, or re-adopt STEM scopes and look for some supplementary materials to support their experiential learning, which is the piece that we felt like was missing. That is where we are at right now.
So Carrie, just to clarify, so STEM code, STEM scopes, is that a core?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're saying realistically, that's still okay as a core, but they would want to have some supplemental kits, or what would that look like?
Yeah, some of those things like the phenomena that they talked about, which in the piloted unit for, I think, I want to say maybe 7th grade, it was like a bath bomb, you know, those things you put in your bath and they fizz out. So they did a whole like that phenomena piece where kids got to experience what that looked like and what the science was behind it. That's what they feel a lot of times STEM scopes is missing, because it is primarily a digital, not primarily, it's like 98% a digital curriculum. And so it has kids be able to do some of those activities online, those simulations online, but they're not actually having a lot of science labs in front of them, or the ones that they are, don't seem to be the most engaging or up to date ones for kids.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you have any data back on the styles for? Is this a brand new curriculum as well? So do you have any data back? Scores for it, or?
Not for their US markets, because last year was their first pilot. They are an Australian company, or they started as an Australian company. And so in Australia, that is the primary publisher that's used. And then they have adapted to US. So I do not have any OSAS scores or any other kind of nationalized norm scores of schools that have used style versus not used style.
So when we did the original curriculum review, was STEM scopes in the mix? Why? Because now it's an option to re-adopt it.
Well, it's an option because I think after a year of kind of moving through some different curriculums and knowing that the curriculum that they preferred originally and that they still have had good experiences with is not a popular choice, that they said they would prefer to kind of either give us another year to go back inside the curriculum, see what's there, see what we may have overlooked on those lists, or use STEM scopes and just get some supplementary material to beef it up. So that's why STEM scopes wasn't there, is it just wasn't hands-on, it wasn't engaging in a way that they feel like they can now kind of bring that with.
But it can.
Yes.
Great. Well, you had all three of your science teachers here tonight. None
I-
of them stayed to talk about.
I just had one, Julia.
Well,
Jim
what-
Crouch and Tina are not science teachers, just Julia was here.
She was here for weeks.
She was, oh.
Yeah.
She's a science teacher. I visited her class. She was very good.
Yes, no, Julia was here for the NGSS award that was given.
Yeah, wasn't
She was. here when
science
Jim
the area where we did the best with the state benchmarking test among the various like language arts and math?
Yeah. Yes, at 8th grade, I believe that it was, I was
Yeah,
gonna
so
say,
I'm thinking we got Dream Team Science using STEM scope. We have our best scores. As far as I know, we've never had a complaint about the science curriculum from the community. Why are we changing?
so we don't, I think,
But we just stay the course with what appears to be working.
yeah, I think just the natural trajectory, or when you say it's an adoption year,
Middle school's at 31%, which was a 9% increase, but their English language arts and math were higher. But remember, at the middle school level, we only take it as
eighth graders. Yeah. Yeah, I think that when you come to an adoption year and you look at kind of what's new and you think, this is our year, if we want to look at something new and we want to look at something updated, this is our year to do that. And I think I guided them through that process and said, this is the year to do that. And they did what they were asked to do, which was to review curriculums and come back and present them to the community. And we ended up that we needed to kind of redo, or we needed to get kids into it a little bit more. At one time, Julia was here with me.
One time. For what, yeah.
I mean, would it be feasible to send a motion out to send the style and STEM scopes back to the review committee to look at and bring us a recommendation between those two, since we never looked at STEM scopes? We're gonna use STEM scopes for the rest of the year, so this is a little bit off, no pressure at this point. So give them that chance to look them over. Which one do you prefer? I mean, Carolina's apparently not it, so.
Well, as long as you're using STEM skills, as long as you add what you plan on adding back into it.
Right.
I would motion just to adopt STEM scopes as is and direct the superintendent to fill in the gaps.
Yeah,
Because we need to get-
Carolina,
we need
we
to
have
get
like
these
the
curriculum.
experiment kits and boss kits. I've talked about those, and those provide enough, hands-on materials for, 25 kids or something like that. So whatever the topic is, you buy the kit, then you do the experiment with it. So
So
those
this
are
was the
supplemental.
superintendent to fill in the gaps an hour ago, it cost us $150,000.
She just has to ask if it's over the 150, Scott. So I'd make a motion to just adopt styles and direct the STEM scopes. Don't worry, it's kidding. Adopt STEM scopes and have direct the superintendent to fill in the gaps with some faucets.
Second.
So we have a motion on the table to adopt STEM scopes and direct the superintendent to fill in the gaps with boss kits, and we have a second. Do we have any more discussion?
Would you want to look at what kits you're gonna fill in with, not be specific on those?
Well, be driven on data. I mean, so wherever our data, like we talked about with our reading.
I'm just saying if our motion says with boss kits, can she say, but we want to use these kits if our motion doesn't?
Maybe just say the
Maybe a
supplementary material.
And there's,
Okay.
I mean, Carolina has some kits. Boss
I
has some
withdraw
kits.
the motion. I redo the motion to adopt STEM scopes with directing the superintendent to fill in with supplemental kits to enhance the experience for the children.
Supplemental material.
Supplemental material.
I concur.
Okay, so we have a new motion to adopt STEM scopes, directing the superintendent to fill in with supplemental material. And we have a second. Do we have any more discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
And I now don't have to come back and do another update. Yes, who
You
gets,
can move on to the next one.
Okay.
I'll be back in a couple of minutes.
4.5 stakeholder report, Dr. Hoff. and
Yes.
a few projects.
Yeah, well, Eric pulls up Dr. Hess up there. I'm gonna do something that I've never done with the board before. And I don't even know if I have authority to do this,
Well,
but
Yeah, I'll tell you.
this agenda item, I'm gonna give the board a homework assignment. And that is the whole point of this agenda item. Now, if you remember back to August.
I get a good employability score.
Yeah.
Did you show back up on time?
Yeah.
Or did you?
So this will not impact your E-score. You do not get graded, but you will have homework. So back in August, if you remember, we were working on board goals, the cycle, and we decided, which I believe is a great idea, to shift the timeline that we use to set board goals. Traditionally, we'd set those before the school year start. The conversation, it had also to do with superintendent goals. The conversation was around we want this all to align with the budget process because the board was saying, well, why do we set these goals and then the budget's set differently? So we decided to just completely turn the cycle around and we actually did all our community engagement in November. And this also aligned coincidentally with what's called the integrated programs, which is an ODE grant that's actually like 12 grants into one, actually 6 grants into one, but it represents about $3.2 million in our budget. And the reason we decided to integrate that all is because a lot of these goals will be aligned around CTE, those sort of things. So with that, and the reason Dr. Hess is here, with the integrated guidance, we get state funds to do community engagement and then do outside analysis of that community engagement, which is a great practice because it's good to get someone from outside your district to look at all your data, what community is saying with fresh eyes to say, oh, here's what people are saying instead of internally. So that's why Rob's here. So next slide. Real quickly, this is the timeline that we established for these board goals, integrated guidance. So in November, you'll see we did all this stakeholder engagement. We had 277 survey responses. Those were from community members, as well as staff, as well as parents. This month in December, getting back to your homework assignment, you guys are going to review the information and we've set a work session for January 6th. So that's the timeline.
Thanks over there.
Tammy will pull up emails.
Yes.
So we have a board work session dedicated to dig into all the community input that Rob has summarized and put in a report, as well as recently all our school report cards were released. So I don't want to get too much into your assignment, but your assignment, you all get these where you've got all the school report cards. And then you've got all the community engagement report that Rob has taken all our data, summarized it and put it in a report. We wanted to get this to you now because it's about 40 pages. So that you have the next, over your Christmas holiday, you guys can do your reading material. And then we come on January 6th, ready to have that discussion on what we're hearing from people, the academics we're seeing, and then we can set those goals. Timelines up there. January, we'll have our initial work session. We'll then work on pulling those plans and getting a formal plan. We'll bring that to you in February for the board to ask questions on. Did we get the plan right? Did we get the goals right? And then a formal adoption in March, leading right into the budget process in April. Does that all sound right?
Yes.
Let's go to our next slide.
These ones.
So gone through this. He's ready for the assignment. So yeah, what Rob did, and then I'll turn it over to him and he can just talk about the process. There's a ton of data in here, but he'll just talk about what he did and how he put the report together. Like I said, we had 277 responses. We had that survey open all of November. If you came to any of our community engagement, we had QR codes for staff to fill it out. Then we did student listening sessions. We wanted to drill down a little deeper because you can only get so much information from a survey. We wanted to talk to students. So we did student listening sessions, 2 per school, and then each school did a staff listening session as well.
And I did the superintendent.
And then we also did a superintendent listening session. So these are the 2 resources in your packet. I'm going to now turn it over to Dr. Hess to talk just briefly about any questions you guys might have as these assignments come around. Rob, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. How about you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So now this is a 5-minute topic. So we haven't planned to go into really great detail around the data that's here, but just an overview of what we put together. So if you could just advance, this is a breakdown of the people that took the survey, and then anything that was we were able to quantify with numbers, we put into a chart of this nature. And then it says, for instance, staff only. Yeah, so you can just kind of go through that. A 5 on this slide was someone who participated in all of the culture events. And so go ahead, keep going. And again, these are self-explanatory, so I won't kind of go into detail. Interesting thing about this slide is that it shows the quality. Now, this is everyone who responded, the staff and parents and students alike. You see, you know, you want this one to be leaning towards the right there, so that's good. Next.
And
Preparing.
you see on the bottom, see it says everyone.
Yeah.
So if there's a question that only the staff got, like, what's it like to work at Crook County? Then you'll see staff only. Other sections of the survey were for everyone, so you'll see everyone.
This is pretty interesting because it asks questions about mental health resources, and you'll notice that it's spread throughout 1 through 10. So what that is telling us is there really isn't a strong opinion one way or the other about the mental health resource need from the people that responded to the survey, and it's an everyone question. So that's how this survey is set up. And so as you read through the slides, if you have questions that come to mind, you can just send them to me, you know, prior to January 6th. We don't have to wait for all the questions on the 6th. So, and, you know, basically you have a good, some amount of time to kind of read through, look at this. These questions here that are text-based, and I know we're going pretty fast through these because we're not reading them to you tonight or discussing them, but if it's a text-based slide, that means that this data was achieved qualitatively. So it was either written in a text box as part of the survey, and or it was a part of one of the feedback sessions, listening sessions. These are the listening sessions, the ones at the end. So it'll say, so that survey that people took, there were some questions that were people could answer with a number, agree to strongly agree to disagree, and then if they had a text box, we put those into summaries for you. And then the staff listening sessions, as you can see, each one is labeled as to what it applies to. So the hope is that as you look through this data, you can kind of look for potential goal areas and then priorities to get after those goals. And then the staff will be coming up with strategies to achieve those, pursue those priorities and achieve goals. So we're going to be building what's called a GPS: goals, priorities, strategies. And that's how we're going to kind of build this strategic plan based on the feedback and based on the board and superintendent, the decisions that you guys make, starting on the 6th of January.
So we've got 4 hours.
And what the hope is.
I was just gonna say, so we have 4 hours scheduled, so we really want to dig in this. We just really wanted to set this up to be successful. So giving you the information early and then just going through what this is you're looking at, so.
Who are we asking questions to? Is it you guys or Rob or anyone?
Why don't you put the 3 of us on it?
Okay, I'll do it, okay.
Yeah.
So 4 hours, it's like a regular board meeting.
You know, we set the tables up differently, at least for work sessions, so.
Taking bets on time.
So I'll be looking forward to being back in Crook County in the new year and meeting with you all and kind of digging into this. And we'll also bring some data around comparators, what other districts and schools that are similar in size to you have done in terms of state outcomes. And so you'll be able to see how you compare against some of your peers. And that can also be good for information on setting goals and priorities and strategies to achieve them. And then this will give you a great information to go into your budget setting process, and then also your conversations around your bond timeline as well. Because some of these questions can be information that can begin to see what the people might support for bond work.
I want to make sure you guys have some work over the holiday break to be doing,
So
so.
let me return the favor.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this survey, and I'm seeing that we have 50% return from parents.
Yeah.
And 42.3 from, I'm sorry, 50% from staff.
Yeah, 42%, 277 response.
So 92.3 from everybody who are stakeholders, except I would say to you that students are probably our most important stakeholder. I don't know, when we get two,
Yeah.
something like that. We have these focus groups later, and that's great. You have your little handpicked group to tell you what you want, and you filter it through to us and some comments. I would really wonder why you can't administer a quick survey to some students, middle school and high school, that specifically ask them a limited set of these questions. I don't think their opinions about bonds are not so critical. But their opinions about, do we have mental health resources? How do our facilities compare? What's the quality of the academic program? I'd like to hear from our true stakeholders, what they're experiencing in a way that isn't filtered. Can we do that between now and Christmas?
I think I can work with the high school and middle school. Is that you, secondary students? I bet we can pull something like that off. I do want
Kids can't read the survey.
I do want to correct the minutes.
We're working on that. You just approved that, expansion. Yeah, we're working on that. Right?
We did, whenever you pull student groups, I know exactly what you're saying. We intentionally said, hey, we do not want your leadership class. We want to make sure we get a vast array, a diverse array of our student body. So we were intentional on that, but we also can pull some more information if that's something the board wants us to do that. I think we can pull that off.
Yeah, if you go to slide 6 there, you can see the demographics.
Just like when I was high school.
Of what,
Or is that something?
Yeah,
Is
so-
that something that the board?
Only you
wants
know
us
what
to
your
do?
numbers are, Rob. We don't.
So
oh,
I
I'm
wanna-
sorry.
Yeah. So Scott, I just want to make sure you're requesting, let's do a student survey on top of this and get that to you guys.
Yes.
I just want to make sure, is this
Yeah,
something the board?
that slide right there.
Yeah,
So you see, as you can see, the student participation was pretty low in the survey. So, if you were to be able to get this survey out, to at least 50 students at that middle high level, maybe 11th and 12th graders, then we can redo the numbers, and that would be no problem. I think I think it's a good suggestion to try to pull off in the next couple of weeks if possible. Because right now, the way
Scott, I've got a little PTSD with surveys, so let's just get super clear. Let's have a motion if you're good with that.
I move to direct the staff to put together a survey that approximates, where it's relevant, the stakeholder questions, and administer it to high school and middle school staff and distribute it before break.
No school.
Students.
Yeah, remember that.
Yeah.
I said.
Okay, to echo what Mr. Cooper has stated, he would like a survey done at the middle school and high school of the questions to see what the stakeholders really think. And Cheyenne has seconded that. Is there any discussion? I summarized. Okay, let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
We'll get that
And
going.
then a difficult question, when exactly did we agree that January 6th was gonna be this work session?
I have it.
I have not.
My calendar.
In September.
Yeah, I was gonna say, she sent a bunch of dates and I just.
I will work on conflict.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Thank you, Joel.
No, I thought that's what he said.
5.0 policy updates, moving straight to Mr. Hoff again. Dr.
Yes.
Hoff, 5.1.
Yes, I'm bringing back, you have an updated version of this. I cut a typo, on your table. So this is a follow-up from the November meeting. The board chose in terms of, procedure on how to adopt, on what you want to do for, policies. The board chose to combine. We had 3 options, I think, just bring them at regular meetings, do work sessions, and then, or do a policy committee. The board said combine options 1 and 2. So, what this describes is, us bringing, regular policies to you at regular board meetings, as well as scheduling, work sessions when there's a backlog. There currently is a backlog, the last number I heard, of around 70 to 80 policies. So on your new draft, we've already scheduled 3 policy work sessions. I'm gonna go over these on video. January 23rd at 5:30, February 24th at 5:30, and March 20th at 5:30. So. One addition, as you heard this morning, this evening, Community School Board, they give insight on policies, so that's something that we can add in here. In addition, the priorities of the board that I heard as we were kind of putting this together was making sure there's legal review. So in this, there's three different opportunities for legal review. We also wanted to make sure, I think, really trying to make sure there's time for community to review policies. So we have no less than 14 days. So those will always be posted on the website with any agenda. And then I think Mr. Cooper, you'd asked, OSBA gives an explanation of the changes. And that is something we'll add to these whenever we have a policy. So it looks like this, it's on the cover sheet.
That wasn't the question.
Yeah.
The question was, could we get distributed to the board, the recommended,
all policies,
not the required policy.
Okay.
The policy, those will come through, but the recommended are discretionary. And
Yes,
if we don't see them, how do we even know what? we're
yes. So
not doing?
all policies, so we'll make a revision on that and get that to you. And there was a question on, is this biannual or quarterly? We talked those, it's three to four times a year, they say. So what we can do is we can, that comes into Tammy, we can send that out in addition, so you can look at all the policies that they've asked. So
So we currently have a backlog of 70.
it's 70 or 80.
I think it
And
might
when
be
are we getting the
85,
next
because we
batch?
just got.
85.
And how many of those are
Five.
a recommendation or they are a need to be? You know, it needs to come in line with a new House bill as opposed to OSBA wants to change this language, so we're recommending this.
Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you how many need to be done, how many are recommended.
Okay.
I
When
think
does the next batch come in?
we just got a batch.
Part of the 85.
That is
That is
included in the
correct. We just
85.
got
We
some.
wanted to move to just do the highly recommended. Will get that document to you so you can look at all the ones. they've done.
Required.
Yeah, required.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to remind everybody that it isn't OSBA that changes these policies, it's the legislature. There were over 1,000 bills in the last session to adopt educational regulation, which all have to flow back through policy. And now we have a legislature convening next month, so yay, we get to do this all over again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we got it.
But I think, don't they prioritize them required, meaning?
Where the
needs to happen?
legislature did
Right,
something.
but recommended, I thought that was just been changing, yeah, okay. I just wanna make sure. I understand.
Usually based, those are usually based on legal cases and they feel like we're in legal jeopardy
Okay.
by not adopting.
So we've kind of spelled out a process. This is completely the board's process and we just execute it. So it's completely up to you. The backlog is getting very big.
So we had the one work session, how many do we have, like 12? It was a lot to review, but I think if you put legal in the mix, who actually checks those OERs. And, you know, some of them are just the change in the blue. You know, if we could dial some of that in, that would take off some of the review process where you might be able to do larger batches. But when we had that 12 or 14, it was so much reading in
But you
the,
didn't even get through half of it.
exactly.
You still have some sitting in the law,
So I think if we could,
most of them.
if we could get through that legal side where they're checking, you know, dotting the i's and crossing the t's, you might be able to get a bigger chunk than 3 to 5 is what I'm getting at. I just don't know how big that load.
We're gonna get through this. Can we have a committee back together and put them on that and case that, at least get through
This
this?
special committee, you know.
Yes, just to get through this 80 whatever, 85-ish.
Ish.
I mean, the committee only works if the board has trust in the work of the committee. I mean, if we're gonna redo it every time, I wouldn't do it at the board table.
I'm just, if you're concerned about everything, getting through them.
At this rate, we're not gonna get through them.
Ever, I believe, Timmy, it was 4 policies last. So what I'm hearing, last year, we adopted 4 policies total.
In 12 months.
That's what I heard. So there, so
Whenever,
E-
3 months, that's awesome.
And policy is some of the most important work for the
Right.
board, so we gotta get it right. So yeah, we are hitting just, the math's not adding up, so we just wanna make sure you guys are comfortable with, or we're following what you guys wanna do regarding policy.
Sounds like we need to dig in and get going. And make some work happen in return. Okay, what's our first one?
Okay, so we can send out, this doesn't have to be adopted, these can just be internal working procedures.
I mean, so what do you want to change? Is there
Well,
something
Steve had
specific?
suggested we go
To a policy?
resurrect a temporary committee to try and get ahead of this. I'm asking. The other option, and I hate to bring this up, but it could be done. We could meet twice a month and meet on the second Wednesday or the fourth Monday. And just do policy as the second week
Like for the,
until we get
like,
caught up.
make that a policy session?
Just make that a policy session. We do nothing but policy. Until we get this through.
Oh, so you're saying,
You like 5 at one meeting and 5 at the next, that's 10 a month.
If you're gonna address them, that's, you ask them also, you can't just beat them into oblivion, like I said.
Yeah,
Past
we cannot.
3 out of the 12,
I mean, we're gonna have, yeah, we're gonna spend 4 hours, yeah, we're gonna have to get some.
you've never gone anywhere on any of it.
on top of these?
Yeah, I mean, the concern I have is that we've probably got another 80 policies coming down after 80 to 120.
Yep.
After the legislature.
Legislature keeps meeting.
We're 80 behind now.
What do we want to do, board?
Set goal for each.
Because, I mean, if we don't get ahead, here's where it happened, because I've seen this happen several times before. When you get so massively backed up, then you end up just reaching out to OSBA, hiring them to rewrite your policy book. Hopefully, everybody reads all 1,000 pages of it before you re-adopt it, and then you have a motion to adopt the whole thing all at once, which now you're caught up. And if we don't want to end up there, we gotta pick up the pace.
Yes, send out some dates for
So the 4th Monday.
doing the 4th Monday.
I mean,
I can do
there were a number of reasons I didn't like that idea, but it's the only way I know what we're gonna do, but.
Fourth Monday of December, we're gonna start this in January.
We do currently have a work session scheduled for policy on January 23rd already, so maybe you could.
Yeah, that means January, February, and March.
Those are our
Hey,
assignments.
I know.
Let's get April and May going. Hey, good idea, guys.
But we already got.
We're gonna meet all the
So
time.
can you put out an invite for April and May?
Yeah.
Or something.
Let's do April and May.
Okay.
That's right. And then.
We can jam something into those.
Well, we have budget in April too.
We have something at 60, but that's fine.
We have something.
Glamorous
every-
job in the world.
you know,
We'll keep you busy.
Especially, what date is that?
Maybe it's gonna be right there.
So can I make a motion? Can I make a motion to adopt the policy process as presented and to adopt DJC fitting requirements, DJC, the AR, IKF graduation requirements, and the JFCEB-AR, that's the only one I had a discussion about, a tiny discussion.
Man, if you guys adopt 3 policies tonight.
We've almost done what we did.
That was
last year.
pretty impressive. So, was your motion to adopt JFCEB or to?
Oh,
I just had I wanted to talk about that in discussion, I just had one discussion piece on that.
Which one was it?
On the last one, the cell phone policy.
But there's a motion to
I was gonna say, let's get that motion taken care
So
of.
let's,
Let's get those.
We have a
Well, the
motion
thing
on
we
the
were
table.
just waiting on is I didn't get all the paperwork Anna handed out to everyone at the board meeting. It never got uploaded. So I didn't get the extra packet that went with those policies. So everyone was waiting on me to get what I didn't get at
Yeah,
the meeting.
I remember that.
Yeah, so those two really was I just didn't get.
But you're good now.
But you're good now, okay.
Do we have a motion on the table?
Yeah. A motion on the table to adopt all of them with discussion on the cell phone.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to adopt the board policy adoption process and to adopt DJC-AR, IKF, and JFCEB-AR.
We're holding on.
Yes, we're holding on.
No, she proposed to adopt it, but
Okay,
have.
but
discussion.
Okay, so, and we have a second on the table.
This is why we don't move forward.
So, discussion.
Okay, so on, I don't have any problems with the first three policies, but on the personal cell phone device. What is a building management plan? At the very bottom of number 9, it says failure to comply with these guidelines will result in disciplinary consequences consistent to all students that are aligned with the student code of conduct and a building management plan. I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, good question. So building management plan, so particularly at the middle school and high school. I haven't filled out a referral in a long time, but in a referral, I think they're digital now. It's like minor referrals, like classroom disruption, you get a lunch detention. Major referrals, would be like a fight and you get a suspension. So it talks about the consequences, and it's typically on the referral. And that's the consequences that principals give for various, it's kind of like the discipline framework.
So my only problem with that is I either think that that management plan needs to be put into an AR or it needs to be attached. Because it leaves, people need to know when they look at the policy,
Yeah.
what exactly are your disciplinary actions?
Mhm.
Because then it leaves it open to like, oh, well, this kid got lesser because, and then it like leaves open to favoritism and stuff, so it needs to be
Yep.
black and white. Either, I mean, I'm not sure if it needs to be put in an AR or just attached, but
Yeah.
there, it has to be the same fair consequences for every student. And people need to know when they look at the policy and what exactly those consequences are. And if there's a different building management plan for each school, then parents
Yeah.
need to know exactly what that is. Like, does it differ from?
Yeah,
Is that
yes, because
different from the
there
high
is a
school
very
levels?
different, like the middle school has, somewhat different, for example, this was years ago, but the middle school didn't allow gum. And that was a very big deal. And the high school did allow gum, and that was a big deal. So there is variation. I think they're mainly aligned, but that's something we'd have to make sure there is
Are they
alignment.
written down?
Like school, I mean, it's
Is
essentially.
the building
school-
management, can you send me a copy of the building management plan?
I think we could have the framework,
I
yeah.
don't want one.
Yeah,
but
it's-
could you?
Yeah,
No,
it's
not a
typically
framework,
more of like
is
an
it
internal.
specific? Is it specific? Cause that's the thing,
Yeah.
like, if it's
Like-
just internal, it's open to interpretation of like, oh, well, this school does this and we do this, like,
Yeah,
what I'm proposing is we adopt this with an AR that lists the specifics for each school of what
Right.
the building management plan is. I don't like the
Yeah.
loosey-goosey language in that.
we can bring back something to that effect. Let me work with the admin team and, because I think clarity around this is essential. So I'd want to work with the building management to make sure there is some aligned processes around that. Do you want it for everything or just specific to cell phone violations?
Well, I think we need to stick to this. I think we should go down that path,
Yeah.
but for this specific policy, we need the building management plan for cell phones.
For cell phones, okay.
I think it's as simple, Joel, as like, plot once, this is your reprimand, and that's at the middle school and the high school. Plot twice, this is your reprimand, the middle school and the high school. Third time you're out, and it just matches across the board.
An AR with consistent disciplinary consequences for cell phone use.
And then do we have student protection policies?
Student protection policies around,
Like the consequences, like, there's one teacher say, oh, you're out, or that's why I'm looking for like specific. I just want things spelled out specifically,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
there's no room for favoritism or.
Yep.
It's black and white and the same for every.
Yeah.
Single kid. So
Yeah.
you put on there, that's what my question is, like,
Yeah.
you have on their building management plan, but you don't actually have like
have the
a
actual
concrete rule of
consequences.
what the building
That makes
management
sense.
plan is, like, that's just an open-ended interpretation.
Yeah,
Uh,
Building management or a building.
Policy, so there's policy JFC that it's the student code of conduct, and that's referenced in handbooks. Building management is more of like internal procedures is maybe how I'd describe it. So it's not typically referenced in policy. So I might actually take that out and I might change building management plan to AR, student cell phone AR consequences, and then we can just spell it out for student discipline. Yeah, I think you're right.
You wanna take it out now, then change it? Is that what you're saying? Cause I have
Let's-
no idea what you just said.
Let's get the AR written and then bring that back and you guys can adopt them together, cause I wouldn't wanna have you adopt it without the AR, referencing an AR that doesn't exist.
So now we need a substitute motion to remove this.
Yes.
Hey, we got three
That's why I
three
was saying,
policies.
Just do the
done.
three before the
Yeah.
discussion.
I make a motion to remove the personal cell phone devices and social media policy JFCEB -AR from the adoption and direct the superintendent to come back with an AR.
You never voted, you got, yeah, you got a motion on a motion now.
Let's adopt three.
Well, maybe you should withdraw and remake. Excluding 5.5.
I withdraw the motion to adopt, well, now I lost my page here. I withdraw the motion to adopt policy DJB, DJC-AR, IKF, JFCEB-AR. To not adopt them.
I agree. No, that's a
I agree.
withdrawal.
Okay, yes.
Then you can make a new motion.
And your new motion is?
I make a new motion to adopt policy DJC-AR, IKF,
And policy procedure?
and the policy procedures.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to adopt the board policy adoption process. Policies DJC, DJC-R, and IKF. We have a second. Do we have any more discussion? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Quickly.
Okay,
It's three policies.
excellent job. everybody. Okay.
Here's only 77 to go.
Okay, next we have,
Got it.
oh, well, look at that, that section. Okay. We move on to public comments. Here we go. Bear with me while I read quickly. If you wish to make a public comment, please complete a comment card prior to the start of public comments. If you're viewing online, please indicate that you would like to speak in the comment section. When you're recognized, please state your name and any group you're representing. Keep your comments to no more than 4 minutes. Available time with 30 seconds left or remaining. A group of visitors with a common purpose should designate a spokesperson for the group. If you wish to request that the board consider an agenda item, please contact the superintendent at least 1 week prior to the next board meeting. And the board does not hear complaints against any personnel in open session. If you have a complaint about a specific staff member, please contact the superintendent or the board chair. Okay, here we go. The first one we have, and I know some people have left, Tammy Prescott?
Yes.
Okay, did I get your last name correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're kids.
Always worries me.
It's not the copies, I like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, first, I just want to commend the school board for the work that you do and the time that you put in and the brain power behind it. I feel like everybody needs a brain break right now after everything that's come to you. Okay, my name is Tammy Prescott. I am a newly retired teacher from Barnes Butte Elementary. Previously, I taught at Chiloquin Elementary in Klamath County for 8 years. I graduated from Crook County High School in 1976. I was married at First B and I gave my birth to my daughter at this hospital. My father is Tom Lowe, who was sheriff of Crook County in the mid-70s and 80s. Prineville is home. Teaching is a service to our community. I helped revamp the 4th grade wit and wisdom curriculum when books needed to be replaced. In my classrooms, I emphasize that we are a community. We are to serve one another and we are to be guardrails for one another. That's why I'm here today. I see the school board as one of the entities who sit at the crossroads of our community. Tonight, I have one particular thing I want to address: the premises and doctrine found in curriculum. Every course we teach is informed by some sort of doctrinal framework. The doctrine presented leads to certain conclusions and values, determining the way we think and live. Doctrine matters. As stated in the last board meeting, we are not Portland, we are not Salem. We are also not the NEA or the OEA or any of those other acronyms. We are conservative, grassroots voters and families of Crook County. We went through a reading curriculum adoption, I think it was 3 years ago. It was a horrific, arduous journey. What I am addressing today is for the decisions coming in the years before us. I am planting seeds for all of us to be aware of the spoken and unspoken premises and doctrines embedded in curriculum. Here are 2 examples. One is from my years of teaching first grade at Chiloquin Elementary in Klamath County. Students were reading an article about categorizing animals. The very last line of the article placed human beings in a category with animals. The class went silent. Then one student very indignantly said, "We are not animals." The class of 32 first graders, 65% were from the Modoc, Klamath, and Yehuskan tribes, erupted in agreement. They recognized a statement that did not agree with their beliefs or values, a statement with a premise and doctrine behind it. A second example comes from my teaching of 4th grade at Barnes Butte Elementary from the Wit and Wisdom reading curriculum. As per instructions, I was reading the first chapter of Alone in the Woods. One phrase was repeated over and over: "Oh my God." When I came to that phrase, I would say, "Oh my stars." When we finished the chapter, one of the students asked why I was doing that. I didn't answer the question, but opened up for discussion to answer that question. At the end of our time, they agreed that if there was a phrase you did not want to repeat because of your personal values, then you could substitute something else. Tonight, I am asking the school board as guardrails to be as diligent in recognizing the premises and doctrines embedded in curriculum as my students were. What students are exposed to has an impact on their hearts, lives, mental health, and worldview. As guardrails, we need to pay close attention to the premises and doctrines that our students are being exposed to and how they are being impacted. Be encouraged to stand firm on sound doctrine built on truth.
Okay, Holly Haynes.
Evening. Mrs. Edgerly, thank you very much for bringing up the building management plan. I wanted to talk about that. So that is the last word in the policy. In October of 2022, I asked Principal Jake Huffman if I could have a copy of this. He had mentioned this document to me kind of offhand, and he said, no, I couldn't have one. I had to file a public records request. And I didn't actually know the name of the document or what the purpose of it was. So I submitted a records request asking for whatever this thing was that was disciplinary guidance, formal or informal, used by staff when determining discipline, changes of placement or removals. And we know those last 2 are not permitted when referring to non-IEP and non-504 students because they do deny students due process. The request came back with a couple things. But this document right here, which at the time was the building management plan. And it says in here, if you need a student removed from your class, make prior contact with the main office or administrator. And you and I both know at this point, after my 2 years of coming here, that class-specific removals are not legitimate. They do deny students due process, and yet here they are. So Oregon law requires districts to adopt written disciplinary policies and to develop a student handbook, the purpose of which is to define behavior, outline consequences, and then inform students and parents about those consequences. But apparently we have these random documents that are behind the firewall of a public records request. And they allow district employees to make up their own disciplinary consequences. And ultimately, they prevent students and parents from knowing what the true disciplinary consequences are, which is required by law. So I'm asking you to get rid of these building management plans and, interestingly enough, put the full and complete actual consequences in an AR that requires board approval. Regarding the handbooks, superintendent is responsible for the handbooks, and we know that the former superintendent, former permanent superintendent, chose not to remove language in previous handbooks that violated state law, even after I gave specific comments during public comment. So the handbooks this year are better. They actually provide hyperlinks to board policies, which is great, but there are still some problems. Some of your schools don't even have handbooks on their website, and when they do, they're all called different names and they're located in different places on all the various websites. One of the schools still shows a 2023 handbook, even though it's now almost 2025. Crook County has a middle school disciplinary matrix. This is another document. And on this one, it lists a quote, change of schedule and a placement change. So that's also a class-specific removal, which is a clear due process violation because essentially you're just kicking kids out of class permanently. And then there is another school, well, I guess I don't have a copy of that, but another school that says that, quote, students must be in good standing behaviorally because attending this school is a privilege, and that students with ongoing behavior issues will be placed on probation. So we have no idea what any of that means. But that sounds like more due process violations. And I imagine that's probably a holdover from a prior handbook. So in Oregon, behavior is legally required to be assessed separately from grades. You can't have class-specific removals like you might in Texas. You can't have those for non-IEP and non-504 students without violating due process. So Dr. Skinner is probably not aware that the former administration uploaded a fake disciplinary policy to the district website that came about after the former board violated public meeting laws while secretly discussing how they could quickly implement this fake policy that denied students due process. She also may not be aware that this district has a documented history of denying students due process and disciplinary actions. So I am quite concerned about this building management plan thing popping up again, and we don't really have any idea if there might be more things like this floating around. So I'd ask you to look into that. Thank you.
Thank you. Brittany? Last name, Mills?
Mills,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
I'm definitely am a amateur at this, but here we go. And thank you guys for taking the time to listen. I'm here to bring attention to what many have called a bullying epidemic in our town. While there will always be adversity and confrontation, there's a great need to emphasize the importance of prevention and communication in these aspects. Our children are at school almost half the time they're at home, and as parents, we want to know our kids are getting the education they deserve while spending that time away from us, which includes more than just academics. With the changing of eras, there have been different and new types of confrontations arising from technology and social media. As some may have seen from my own examples this past week, parents and students are reaching out on social media platforms for many reasons. I myself chose social media because I have struggled to feel heard from the schools and staff when it seems to be needed the most. I've had many other parents reach out with the same sentiments. Along with social media can come miscommunication and misunderstandings. As I'm sure a lot, if not all, are aware, my son was in a situation at school that should never happen. It was traumatic and has been a headache for all involved. But through this unfortunate event, there have been rough conversations, but also very productive conversations. While I feel my son's case is moving in a constructive and progressive direction, I know other parents will face many of the same frustrations I did when it comes to understanding protocols or processes that come with these trying events. It's crucial in these times that our school system communicates with parents effectively about what goes on in their schools, what procedures or protocols are in place to ensure students are not only learning to treat each other with respect and humility, but are keeping each other safe. When there's a situation where these things aren't being followed, transparency between parents and staff on how our children are held accountable, as well as learning from their accountability, is a necessity. It's very important that our parents understand what is in place and what their options are when it comes to resolving these conflicts. When there is a clear When there's a clear communication and open conversation between parents and staff, it may eliminate many of the obstacles parents feel they're facing, including division and resentment towards staff they feel have been unjust or lacking. Humanity is always learned through trial and error. We learn to keep our hands off hot things, look both ways before crossing, and to never take rides from strangers. These things have become instinct, so much that we put our heart and soul into ensuring our children understand the consequences of these. They have our full undivided attention when our children fall short of these learnings. In this new generation where mental health is more fragile than ever, I believe it is just as important to teach our children in the home and schools with undivided attention, even just for a moment, the severity of how our actions impact ourselves and the world around us. The idea of evolving our teachings to accommodate our changes in society and staying persistent and trying to come together and raise our children together, we ourselves as adults can learn with our children and grow with them. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Okay, we have upcoming dates. Hugs and Mugs, December 13th, 8 AM to 4:30 at the district office. School Board Financial Work Session, December 16th at 5:30 here at the district office. Superintendent 100-day meet and greet, December 17th from 5 to 6 at the district office. No school winter break, December 23rd through January 3rd. School Board Work Session, January 6th, 4:30 PM at the district office. School Board Meeting, January 13th, 6:30 at the district office. No school Martin Luther King Day, January 20th, 2025. And then School Board Policy Work Session, January 23rd, from at 5:30. Sorry, I was trying to read the little typo there. So 2025 at 5:30 at the district office. At this time, we are now adjourning. Oh, wait, no, sorry.
Yeah.
I know. We are now done with our regular school board meeting, and now we're going to go back into our executive session. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Yes, we can have, yes. Yes. Okay, so we are.
Oh, wait, is there back up?
Yes, I was getting the cue. We are reconvening back into open session. The board has concluded its work on this matter. We will reconvene in another executive session at this time, and we're now adjourning this meeting.